Greetings in the name of our King and welcome. I'm glad to be here with you all once again to open up the book of our King and to study and to learn so we can sharpen ourselves to be approved before our Maker. Shalom to the Mishpachah throughout the Caribbean. Shalom to the Mishpachah in South and Central America. Shalom to the Mishpachah over here in these divided states of America, and shalom to our Mishpachah across the border in Canada. Shalom to the Mishpachah over in the UK, Europe. Shabbat shalom to all the Mishpachah over in Africa. Shalom, Shabbat shalom to the Mishpachah in the middle of the East and all the Far East and every other place on this earth. I greet you all in the name of our King, and I hope that everyone is in excellent health. We have quite a class today. Nothing new. For those of you who have been with us for some time, is familiar with this particular topic. But every once in a while, Hebrews ask questions, and I am not sure if they have seen previous videos. I know I've never done a video with the title Cornelius, but I've included Cornelius in other classes. Apostle to the Gentiles, not a Negro, you name it. It's in there. We talk about this from time to time. As part of understanding the Hebrew diaspora. However, we do have a lot of new Israelites who are still not clear on the understanding with Israel being scattered among the nations. They're still looking at the book of Acts and starting there. And they need to go into all the other places in the Bible, and this is where they're going to have a full understanding. Once you have the master key, brothers and sisters, it is so easy to unlock the rest of the book. It becomes very easy. Now, I do know that there are brothers and sisters, I'm not even sure if they're on right now, but I do know that there are brothers and sisters who are not so, well, let me put it this way. I know growing up when I attended school that there were some students who didn't have, who had issues with attention. In other words, they can't really stay long and learn certain things. That takes a long time. They need a quick study. And unfortunately, they can't watch a 3-hour video. They want everything to be packaged up in about 15 minutes or less. Maybe one of these days I'll start doing some 10-minute classes, just boom, 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 bullet point type stuff. But the problem is that you're always going to have that divide where one side, someone's going to say, well, you said this, but you didn't really go into any details. Where are you getting this stuff from? And then you got to go back and explain it. And if you try to explain something, they say, well, you're taking about an hour just to get to the point. And you can't win. Maybe the best thing to do is just wait until the master comes and he will just say, boom, have this knowledge. Boom, have that knowledge. Boom, you're going to have this one. Maybe that's the best thing, just to wait. But in the meantime, Mishpachah, I'm going to do the best I can with the tools that I have. And also, sometimes while we're teaching certain classes, we have Hebrews who don't attend, or maybe they couldn't attend at the time, and the class is not posted up on YouTube as yet. And because of that, they miss out on certain pertinent information. Maybe like a puzzle piece was put out and they missed that opportunity. So I do understand how, these questions come up. Well, what we're going to do today, we have a lot of reading. We have a lot of stuff to go through, and historical stuff, perhaps with the title and just focusing on this particular part. I think that will be good. All right, so let's get ourselves together. We have a lot of stuff to go through, and I definitely like to go into it. And just pray for Brother Yona that he has the energy to go through to today's class, okay? Now, I believe that this particular class may segue into the eunuch, because that's also part B, I should say, a part 2 of the book of Acts with regards to so-called Gentiles coming in, and the apostles are going to Gentiles, and we should just drop everything and just go out and just grab a Gentile and embrace a Gentile, and those kinds of stuff. So, and then you find yourself going back into the church. You segue back into the church, and then you realize, okay, because that's where you find most of the Gentiles. You don't have to go too far, okay? So let's have a word of prayer, and we'll get into today's class. Cornelius, Hebrew or heathen? Or heathen or Hebrew? Gentile or Jew? However you want to title it. So, Elder, if you don't mind, if you're ready to render the tefillah, do that short tefillah and ask the Most High to bless the class. Get right into. Let's all face towards Jerusalem.
Let us pray, family. Our gracious, our dear loving Father, before your presence, we bow. We want to say thank you again for watching over us during the hours of the night, the days of the week. Thank you for all your blessings upon us. Thank you for gathering us again together. Thank you for the Shabbat today. We pray, dear Father, that may bless the service today. Everything that's going to be said and done, we pray, dear Father, that may accompany the teacher, that may bless him, that may speak to him, speak through him, and speak for him. We pray for the reader that the reader, Father, will be reading fluently, that all those that hear the words that is read, it will not only listen, but Father, that everyone will repent and turn over their life to you, because the time is at hand. We thank you, we praise you. Those that are sick, those that have problems, we pray for them, dear Father, that I may reach down your blessing, your hands of healing upon them, that all will receive healing, and your name will be praised forever and ever. We thank you so much for hearing and answering our prayers, because we ask it through your Son, our Lord and Savior, we pray. Amen. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come. Thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. Lead us not into temptation, deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
So let me ask this question to the Mishpachah, and let's see what you all are thinking. Those of you who already know the answer, I mean, you can participate, but Cornelius, was he a Hebrew or a heathen? What saith you? Is he a Hebrew or a heathen? Sister says yes, he's a Hebrew. It's the Olives, the Palti. So far, everyone is saying that he is a Hebrew. Hallelujah. And I guess the question would be, to follow up, is how do we know that he is a Hebrew? Because we open the book of Acts, and if we're coming in with the Christian lenses, we will only see the love of Jesus coming to all people, and that's basically it. Okay? So what would we use as a roadmap or guide for us to arrive to the understanding that he is a Hebrew? What will we use? Anyone knows? You can grab the mic if you want to say something. Well, to come to the conclusion that Cornelius is a Hebrew, what would we use or utilize as a roadmap, a guide, to get us to that conclusion, to that point, that understanding? Okay, so we have some things in the chat. Says he paid alms to the Hebrews. That's good. That's very good. Scriptures tell us that he was a devout man. Okay, that's good too. History. No, that's good. We have alms, history, being devout. He feared Yah. We will use the scriptures. That's correct. He gave alms to the poor. Understanding the prophets. That is correct. He helped build a synagogue. So it seems like I'm speaking to the choir because, okay, Eliyahu says our ancestors were often conscripted into foreign armies. That is correct. That is correct. Yeah, and Josephus. Okay, so absolutely, I believe that we already speak into the choir. But so what we're going to do is just go through, read, and establish the points. Yes,
we had this subject some years ago, and I think someone who read Wikipedia, it was saying that he, Cornelius, was a Hebrew, but he went into the army and he joined himself there. He became a citizen, and that his name, I think, was changed. And that is the reason why that everybody thinks he's a Gentile.
Right. So we will look at the evidence and use the evidence to prove our case. Okay. So if we are doing detective work, using forensics and whatnot, we have to pull all the evidence together and bring it into the court. And it depends on how much information, how much proof that we have, we can settle the case. Now, of course, we don't have a time machine. I think that is appropriate. We need to have one of those, and I'm hoping that one of our scientist Hebrews will build one. But if you build one, build an extra one for me so I can go back. I'll take the Nicodemus trip. Can I enter my mother's womb a second time? No, Ima. Ima doesn't want me to go back a second time. Well, my head was too big. My whole body was too big, Elder? Uh-oh. All right, family. So let's go into our studies. So we have this is just basically the email, one of many, talking about other Hebrews who are doing classes on YouTube about Cornelius. And a brother was saying that the argument he makes is that if Cornelius was an Israelite, why wasn't he present during Pentecost? That's a good question. What would you say would be the answer to that? Do you think every single Hebrew would be able to attend Pentecost? It depends. There's a mic. There are about 2 microphones over there. Yeah.
Yeah, it depends on the location where he lived, and he couldn't probably make the journey to go to Jerusalem.
Absolutely. Because remember, Shaul says, I must by all means make this trip, right, to Jerusalem. So he was trying his best to get there. He was pursuing it, but sometimes it's just not possible. Okay. What's the other reason? Let's see. Anyone? Roman duties. That's correct.
Yeah, I was about to.
Okay.
I was saying that.
Roman duties. All right. And that's good. That's what we need to, when we're examining things, this is what we need to look at. The fact that he may be, a person may be in a foreign country. He could have been, really far away or probably on the battlefield or something and not able to attend Pentecost. So we can't just say that or use that, We have to ask the question, okay, moreover, why would Peter say it was unlawful for a Jew to come under the roof of a man from another nation if Cornelius was an Israelite. That also has to be put into under the microscope and for us to examine, okay? Because if you go through the Bible, start even at Abraham, and you see how Israel was going to be in an iron furnace and scattered, and you go through the whole history of Israel, Deuteronomy chapter 28 is pretty much the seed that has all the historical, the prophetical pieces in there about Israel. That should be enough to give us an overview of what would happen to Israel being dispersed. Because being cut off because of breaking the commandments, you read the book of Hosea, you go through the prophets, you can see how the Most High pretty much turned his face away from Israel. This is why the prophets also spoke about those that sit in darkness. Darkness have seen a great light. Darkness, that means that, the face of the Most High was not on us. That's why it says, cause his face in the Aaronic prayer, his face to shine upon us and give us peace, right? If his face is not shining upon us, we're in big trouble, Mishpachah. Big trouble. So these are things that we need to look at. And we also need to see how Israel was divided into two kingdoms. But even one particular tribe was denoted to be a multitude of nations. And how do you have a multitude of nations from one nation? That's the question. From one tribe. Multitude of nations from one tribe. How is that going to occur? Okay. So we will look at those verses and see what we can glean from it. And of course, it's not my job to make anyone to understand. A farmer plants the seed and then he moves on. He just, do the work as much as possible. But you can't poke under the ground after the seed is planted and look to see if there's any roots growing, anything happening. Sometimes it may take years. Some of our people will not get it right away. Some will and others won't. It's a work in progress. And that is also a message for those who desire to be teachers that, you have to be very patient. Okay? Very patient with the Mishpachah, and to just put that on your list that Israel will take some time to get it. Okay? He argues that in Acts 2, Peter was speaking to all the house of Israel, meaning the northern and southern kingdom of Israelites. And then there's a bunch of verses and stuff there for us to take a look at. So we will kind of browse through that real quick and go into many things in our histories and stuff. Okay, so now one of the things about Acts 2 is that we have to pay attention to the verse a little closely, right? Because it says in verses 5, he argues that in Acts 2, he was speaking to both houses of Israel. This is what the brother is saying. What does it say in verses 5? Can you read that for me, please?
Sure. Shabbat Shalom, brethren. But there were dwelling at Jerusalem Jews, devout men out of every nation under heaven.
So these are who?
Jews.
And the Jews are from what side of the fence?
They're out of every nation.
Out of every nation. But the key point, are they northern or southern kingdom?
They're Jews. They're the
southern kingdom.
Yes.
That's the key. Okay. So the Jews that is mentioned here is the southern kingdom diaspora.
Yeah.
Now, it wasn't just, in Israel didn't just have the southern kingdom. We have the record in the book of Luke that there were others from Luke chapter 2 that we have one interesting passage of a certain woman. Okay. Luke 2. Let's go down here. Okay, so right here, verses 36. This is the time when Yeshua was being circumcised according to the law. An angel, Gabriel, showed up and says, "No, put that blade back, for he shall be called a Christian." Did that happen, Elder?
No.
He shall not be cut in the loins. Did you see that, Elder? Oh, okay. So why do our people have problems with circumcision? All right, so read for me, 36.
And there was one, Anna, a prophetess, the daughter of Phanuel of the tribe of Asher. She was of a great age and had lived with an husband 7 years from her virginity.
So we have Anna from the tribe of Asher that was there along with the southern kingdom. Okay. So, northern kingdom was there also. In order for you to have the proper understanding of that, you got to go back into the time of, I think it's Hezekiah, I believe it was, that had sent out a letter, put up a big old billboard. Northern Kingdom, you're welcome to come keep the feast. You don't have to worry about breaking league with your king in the north. I sent him a letter saying that y'all have a visas check. Homeland Security is going to let you through the border. Y'all can come on down, keep the feast, and go back if you want. Some of them came and stayed, and the others didn't even bother. Yes.
Some of them also were married to some of the southern kingdom, in the sense of when Ruth was married to Boaz, there were many of them who, some of the northern kingdom were married to the southern kingdom, and they lived among the southern kingdom.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
So we just have to be able to do our little forensics, our homework, check things out carefully, and once you start to see these things, you'll say, okay. So let's go through a few things that the brother have here real quick, and these are some of the verses he said the brother on YouTube put out. And let's go to Acts 2 again and just read through Acts 2 and 14. So we have a lot of stuff to read, and I'm going to try not to dwell too long. I want to hit it as fast as I can. All right, let's read Acts 2 and 14.
Acts 2 and 14.
Uh-huh.
But Peter, standing up with the 11, lifted up his voice and said unto them, Ye men of Judea, and all ye that dwell at Jerusalem, be this known unto you, and hearken to my words. For these are not drunken, as you suppose, seeing it is but the third hour of the day.
You men of Judea does not really give us a full understanding of all the house of Israel per se, but we do know that primarily both kingdoms of Israel were dispersed. We had the majority of the northern kingdom had remained in exile. We know that a good portion, but not all, of the southern kingdom had actually returned. And the proof of that is going into the book of Peter, the letters of Kepha. You're going to see where he wrote to those that are in Babylon. Just reading Acts 2 alone lets us know that there were Jews from the southern kingdom that still lived in all of these foreign countries, but they had the opportunity to come home and keep the feast, but they returned back to those foreign countries. You read the book of Jeremiah, and I'm only just mentioning it here because we don't have time to go to every single verse in the Bible to prove things, but the book of Jeremiah spoke about our cousins and stuff, Israelites who had family down in Africa, Egypt. And the Most High warned Judah, the southern kingdom, of repenting, and they didn't want to repent. They said, well, if the king of Babylon shows up, we're going to go down into Egypt and hang out there until he gets worn out, because it's a long trip from Babylon to send troops throughout the desert, the wilderness, and come on down into Egypt. So the Most High said, listen, if you all plan on doing this thing, Nebuchadnezzar is going to come down into Egypt, and not only is he going to take the Hebrews into captivity, but also those who are protecting you, which are the Egyptians. Okay. And of course, he did do that too. Okay. So if you read that, you can see how we did have places over in Egypt that we dwelt. We know, historically speaking, every time there's a famine or some conflict, we either head down into Egypt, or we would go down into one of the Philistine countries and stuff. Remember David, when he fled from Saul? Was it Saul? Yeah, I believe he fled from Saul. He went over Jeroboam. Okay, so we have this history of going into other nations for sanctuary and things like that. Okay, so that's not really a strong case of what he's trying to present here. Acts 2, and let's read 36 and 38.
Therefore, let all the house of Israel know assuredly that Yahuwah have made that same Yeshua whom you have crucified, both Adonai and the Messiah.
Now, the words "let all the house of Israel" sometimes can cause some confusion. What does the word "let" mean? Allow. Okay. So if it means allow, what was happening before the statement was made?
Because the southern kingdom will not allow the northern kingdom to come among them, because they consider them to be Gentiles.
And it's not just the northern kingdom, because remember, again, we have to kind of like reimagine where Israelites were, okay, at the historic place and time. And once we reimagine that, we start to fix the maps. We can see, we put everything out where we can see it. If the majority of the Hebrews were somewhere in Asia, heading further east or something, and then we had little spots here and there, then we would understand, okay, the majority were a remnant that lived in Jerusalem, Judea, and whatnot. When they said, let all the house of Israel know assuredly, it's not all Israel that has known anything, but the men were going out to preach and to teach according to the commandments of Yeshua. And you had stumbling blocks. You had Pharisees. You had Sadducees. Sadducees try to trip stuff up with the scriptures. Pharisees try to stop you from believing in the Messiah. You know, so you had these people who were making an effort to stop Israel from believing in the Messiah. Now, remember, we talked about the diaspora or the synagogues. When you read the book of Acts, it mentions Thessalonians, Ephesus for the Ephesians, Rome for the Romans. You see all these different synagogues in these vicinities and stuff. And that will let us know that most of those synagogues were made up of two types, mainly two groups of Israelites. Okay, mainly two groups. That is from the Greek diaspora and also from the Roman diaspora, from the southern kingdom. Okay, the Greek diaspora from the southern kingdom was made up of mainly Israelites during the time of Alexander the Greek, when they were forced or they freely converted to become citizens of Greece. And then and we'll go into that too, when the Greeks were taken over by the Romans, you had a transitioning, okay, of Hebrews who also adopted Romans' way of life. Many of them because of trade, because, you know, if you're living in a place where you're getting hit with hurricanes all the time, you're going to pick up and says, you know what, that's it. I'm not rebuilding anything. I'm going to move on to another place. You got a whole bunch of Israelites in New York. Far away from where hurricanes normally hit. It says, you know what? I don't want to be close to any coast anymore. I want to go to the middle of the U.S. I want to go all the way up to Alaska. I want to get away from whatever it is. And that's how, if you have Israelites going through certain problems in Jerusalem, all these civil wars and insurrections, we're going to read that too. They're going to just say, you know what, we're going to move away from that, get away from that. We want to live a peaceful life. And so it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure this thing out. It's just simple understanding of human nature or life with anyone who has gone through some kind of hardship, may want to have a change of pace. And if they have enough people together, they would form a synagogue and come together to worship and whatnot. Okay? So, can you read verses 38 for me, please?
Verse 38.
Mm-hmm.
Then Peter said unto them, Repent and be baptized, every one of you, in the name of Yeshua HaMashiach, for the remission of sins, and you shall receive the gift of the Holy Spirit.
Okay, every one of you, does that mean all 12 tribes?
Yes.
It's just who were present. Okay, just those that were present. Okay, just those that were present. So we can't say it's all 12 tribes. We can see there was a little bit of sprinkling on the cupcake, but it wasn't covered completely. Okay, just a little bit here and there. Just a little flavor of the northern kingdom was there. All right. Let's look at it a few more. That Acts 15, 14 to 17. So I'm just going to take a few more, and we're going to move on into some other stuff. Okay. So I'm not doing a debate, taking the brother stuff and going. No, I'm not going to do all that. I'm just going to show you what history and what we have out there, and everyone can sit down and analyze the information. So 15, 14 to 17.
Acts 15, 14 to 17.
Mm-hmm.
Simeon have declared how Yahuwah at the first did visit the Gentiles to take out of them a people for his name. And to this agree the words of the prophets as it is written.
Okay, let's stop for a moment. Right here should be a huge clue. If you're going to go back to the words of the prophets, you will see that the prophets is making a very clear distinction of who has to be brought back, or who's going to be the people receiving this name. Okay, so let's see what 16 says.
After this, I will return and will build again the tabernacle of David.
I will build again the tabernacle of David. Now, this tabernacle of David is a one house that he's talking about, okay? Because the tabernacle of David was broken. It was broken, split. When Solomon had messed up Rehoboam, under Rehoboam, Solomon's son, that's David's grandson, the kingdom of Israel was torn into pieces, two houses. And even with the northern kingdom, Ephraim was not the only one ruling. You had times where Issachar also had the crown. I don't know if you all know this. There's a time when, temporary crown, I should say. You had others that took control for a short time. So let's read 16 again.
After this, I will return and will build again the tabernacle of David, which is fallen down.
Mm-hmm.
And I will build again the ruins thereof, and I will set it up.
Okay. So obviously this is talking about the rebuilding of the two houses of Israel. It's not the rebuilding of nations in terms of Gentiles. It's the rebuilding of the house. The focus that we should always remember, the prophets were declaring that Israelites will be coming back together again. Now, if I have a limited amount of funds to build something, do you think it's going to make sense for me to take my monies and instead of building my house to shelter me first, I'm going to take my stuff and split it into two and go out and focus primarily on other people's and leave myself out in the rain? You think that's going to make sense? I mean, common sense lets us know that even when you're on an airplane, the stewardess will tell you, the flight stewardess will say, you got to buckle yourself up first. You got to put on your mask first, you, and then everyone else that is not capable of doing so, you help them afterwards. Yeshua says, let the children first be filled. First be filled. You can't have the mask halfway on your face and try to help somebody. The stewardess is going to say, no. Get your mask on properly. It has to cover you properly. It's just common sense. So has Israel tabernacle been restored yet? So why are we going out taking our shekels and building other people a house to stay in before us? That doesn't make any sense. Speak into the mic.
Because you have to look at what happened during the time of Egypt. The Gentiles never came with us until when we were about to leave Egypt. That's when they saw the destruction, the plagues and everything. That's when they decided to join in with the house of Israel. They weren't before.
Absolutely. And provisions were made for the Gentiles afterwards. Provisions is something you do later on. It's not something that you do initially, okay? Let's read verses 17.
That the residue of men might seek after Adonai, and all the Gentiles upon whom my name is called, saith Yah, who doeth all these things.
The Most High has never given his name to other nations. There's only one people that he gave his name to, and that's it. Okay, this is a hard swallow. I know a lot of people are wrestling with it, but I cannot change the thing to suit just because, you know, people want to be included in something. I mean, I have a good friend, for example, and the will says you're going to get everything. You cannot give it to this friend. The will stipulates you have to get it. You can't give it to the friend. You can feel, however, if it's the lawyer says, I'm sorry, but this guy cannot get it because he kicked your daddy's stick. I know he's your best friend, but he kicked your daddy's stick. So your daddy says he will never get it. When David was about to die, David gave a decree. He says to kill all these people. Remember that? He told Solomon, when I die, these guys are going to die too. Go ahead and read that. I mean, I'm sure you can say, well, you know, Daddy, you shouldn't kill this guy. You remember, when I die, they die too. That's it. Yes.
The book of Amos, chapter 9, verse 11. That's where the prophet took that statement from.
Let's take a look at that. Amos what now?
Amos 9 and verse 11.
Amos 9 and 11.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead and read.
No, it says, in that day will I raise up the tabernacle of David that is fallen, and close up the breaches thereof, and I will raise up his ruins, and I will build it as in the days of old.
Read 12, because it continues into 12.
That they may possess the remnant of Edom, and of all the heathen which are called by my name, saith Yah, that doeth this.
He says to possess. That's the part that the church don't want to read. Now you have to understand something, okay? You have to think along the lines of, if you are Hebrew under Roman rule, do you think you're going to come out and say, read verses 12? If you have Roman guards Homeland Security, Romans walking up and down, and you have all of these Jews, first of all, you got all this insurrection happening every weekend. Some Israelite decide, let's gather enough stones and we're going to make some slingshots. We're going to call it the David Brigade. Okay, we're going to knock Goliath, the Romans, out. And so that forces the police, the Romans, to police the gatherings of Hebrews everywhere. Every time you have a lot of Hebrews together, the police is going to be there watching to see what's happening. You can't come out on the speaker and say that we may possess the remnants of Eden, Rome. You can't say that. We have to be able to think along the lines of how we are today is no different from how it was back in those days. So once you start to really think, apply some searching in here, research and stuff, you're going to see, Mishpachah, it's no different from today. You just can't go out in the streets and talk what you're going to do to the government and whatnot. Believe me, they're listening all the time. Okay, you can't do those things. It's not right. All right, so read on down to verses 14.
14.
Amos, yes.
Verse 13. Behold, the days come, saith Yahuwah, that the plowman shall overtake the reaper, and the treader of grapes him that soweth seed. And the mountains shall drop sweet wine, and all the hills shall melt. And I will bring again the captivity of my people of Israel. And they shall build the waste cities and inhabit them. And they shall plant vineyards and drink the wine thereof. They shall also make gardens and eat the fruit of them. And I will plant them upon their land, and they shall no more be pulled up out of their land, which I have given them, saith Yahuwah, your Elohim.
So
Thy Elohim.
if Peter and them were coaching from Amos, why would they quote from Amos, knowing full well that it hasn't happened yet? They were still under captivity. The thing is that they were basically speaking about the process. Everything was being initiated, being started, being sparked at that time. We're still in that phase. We're not in our land as yet. We're still on the road to Zion. The Gentiles are still in power. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So that's not the focus for today. Let's let's get back to Cornelius. Let me go back to let's see here. So let's see. Amos 9:11. We already covered that. Acts 10, 1-2, we're going to go into that too. Cornelius might be the role model for Gentiles. It's argued he wasn't an Israelite because he didn't show up for the Feast of Pentecost. We already covered that. If you're a soldier, especially one with a lot of authority, you will be stationed in other places. We'll go to Acts in a little bit. If Cornelius is an Israelite, then why does Paul state it's unlawful for a Jew to come onto one of another nation? Where does it state it's unlawful to associate with other Israelites? Okay. The simple answer would be, what problems did Yeshua have when he went into the houses of other people that other people didn't go into? Remember when Yeshua went and visited, no, not the centurion. The Pharisees was making a fuss about, the Pharisees did not go into the homes or even deal with regular Hebrews who were, they deemed as bums, low life. Remember that? Okay, so when you look at the day in and day life of of Israelites. You had groups that didn't want to associate themselves with other people. You look at the statements. How is this guy is going to go into this person's house? And how can he eat with wine bibbers and prostitutes
Correct.
and all of these people? Because they didn't go into those people's homes. Zacchaeus was surprised that Yeshua was going to go into his house. What about Matthew, the tax collector? All of these people, other groups of Hebrews would not go into those people's homes. As a matter of fact, and we're going to look at some evidence, they were looked at as being of another nation. You have a statement by the Pharisees saying, is he going to go? Let's get that. The book of John. Where is he going to go that we're not going to see him? I think it's 9 or 10, somewhere around there. Is it 8? Where is he going to go that we're not going to see him? 7? Okay. Yeah, that's 7 and 35. Okay. So let's take a look at that. I see Hebrews are more alert than I am today. All praises to the Most High. I'm going to lean on y'all. All right, so y'all are throwing the scriptures together. John chapter 7. And let us take a look at this. Okay, 35. So this is dialogue with the judges, the Pharisees. If we read 32, let's skip on down, okay? Actually, just read from there, 32.
Okay. The Pharisees heard that the people murmured such things concerning him. And the Pharisees and the chief priests sent officers to take him. Then said Yeshua unto them, Yet a little while am I with you, and then I go unto him that sent me. You shall seek me, and shall not find me, and where I am, thither you cannot come. Then said the Jews among themselves, Whither will he go, that we shall not find him?
Mm-hmm.
Will he go unto the dispersed among the Gentiles and teach the Gentiles?
So the disperse among the Gentiles and teach the Gentiles, they would be considered the diaspora, Hebrew diaspora. You look it up and you'll see it says diaspora, the scattering of Israelites. They consider them to be Gentiles. In other words, the word Gentiles, goyim, means nations. The real, translation is nations. The only reason why we call them heathen is because of the practices of idolatry and those different things that is customary among those people. The culture of the foods that they eat and their lifestyle and whatnot, they're considered to be heathen because of that separation of not having the Torah that the Most High said he gave his law only to Jacob, book of Psalms, right? So they considered these fellow Hebrews to be as other nations. The answer is right there through the text as you go through. All right. So the question about why would he, the statement about unlawful for a Jew to come onto one of another nations. We're going to go into some other verses of scripture. He also mentions that Deuteronomy chapter 7:1 tells us which nations Israel wasn't supposed to form a covenant. Well, that was the immediate, because they lived in that vicinity. Okay? We wasn't supposed to form a covenant with any nation. None whatsoever. We formed covenants with Greeks, we had problems. We formed covenant with Rome, we had major problems. We went from the pan into the fire itself with Rome. Okay? So any nation, no nation whatsoever. Well, the only covenant we're supposed to make is with our Elohim. That's it. Nehemiah 13:1-3 also tells us what to do with the mixed multitude. Let's take a look at that. Let's see what the brother has, the thing. And then we're going to move on because it's a lot of stuff. I don't think I can be able to go through all of it. Okay. And time has a way of just, Yeah, Nehemiah 13, 1 to 3.
On that day, they read in the book of Moses in the audience of the people, and therein was found written that the Ammonites and the Moabites should not come into the congregation of Yah forever, because they met not the children of Israel with bread and with water, but hired Balaam against them, that he should curse them. Howbeit our Elohim turned the curse into a blessing. Now it came to pass, when they had heard the law, that they separated from Israel all the mixed multitude.
Okay, so they separated the mixed multitude. But when you read Ezra and Nehemiah, you can see that the emphasis was placed upon the rebuilding of the temple. And that was primarily what was on the table, people with the genealogy issues and all that stuff. But of course, Israelites were to separate themselves from these heathen nations because of what they did. The fornication, the idolatry, all of this crazy stuff. And of course, the provisions, when we try to get provisions, even Edom had chased us away from purchasing stuff. So the Most High marked them. The Amalekites, the seed of Esau, came out and waged war against us for no reason. So the Most High put that in the Torah, that we should always have problems with these people, just keep them away from us. So that is important. Okay. Let me see what it has here. Give me 1 second. Okay, mixed multitude. Okay, but at the same time, please keep in mind, you can't exempt the issue with Joshua when you had these people that were on the list to be destroyed. And the Most High said, well, Joshua said, well, you deceived us. From henceforth, you're going to be the drawers of water and the carriers of wood to serve the temple. Now, these people continue to keep the contract. They couldn't possess any substantial land inheritance. Thank you, Elder. And Saul had messed with them, and plagues from the Most High fell upon Israel. David had to mend things and take the curse off. Then when we read the book of Nehemiah, Ezra, somewhere along the lines, I think it's in Nehemiah, you find where they remember the covenant and they said that we were given a certain responsibility, and our people have always kept our side of the covenant, the contract. Okay, these are not Hebrews, these are Canaanite nations, or one Canaanite nation that the Most High allowed to stay amongst Israel, to serve Israel. Not just all Israel, but particularly to serve the temple itself. Okay? They're not in the temple, they just bring in supplies to the temple. There's a difference. You want to say something? Yes.
Yes. So that he allowed them to live, because he saw that his name would not be blasphemed, because since Joshua make the covenant with them, and if he turn around and do something different, then they will look on Elohim as, not a truthful person.
Yes, because whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven. The contract will be signed in heaven. That's why we can't make league with nations so easily, because the Most High is going to bind that in a thing, and then there'll be a problem for us. So he says, don't go out and make deals with these people, because I'm going to hold you to it. When you make a deal, I have to approve it.
In the case of David,
yes.
when Saul had made the covenant with the people and he didn't keep it.
Yes.
And
that's what I was referring to. So Brother Eliyahu posted about the Samaritan woman. That's a great example to show that we did have the Northern Kingdom being denoted as a Samaritan woman was around the time of Yeshua. Okay, that's also she was also from that mixture between the priests and the heathen that was placed into the territories. Okay, you had a little bit of assimilation. And remember when Nebuchadnezzar's guard, Nebuchadnezzar, or whatever his name is, forgot the name. He was the general that Nebuchadnezzar set to destroy Jerusalem. And he left some of the poor to take care of the property, the grounds and stuff. Took everybody else into captivity, and he left the guys to trim the trees and upkeep. Yeah. Okay. And so everything has to be brought into account. All right, let's move on. Let's see what else he has. Now in Romans 2:9-11, the Most High is not a respecter of persons. The Most High isn't a respecter of persons, but he's a respecter of nations. I'm currently viewing your, okay. Exodus 2:25. Exodus 2:25. And let's see if there's anything about respecting. Not a respecter of persons, but nations. 2:25. Well, let's see. Acts 2:25. I'm sorry, Exodus 2:25. Yes, please read.
Exodus 2:25. And Yahuwah looked upon the children of Israel, and Yah had respect unto them.
So he had respect unto the children of Israel. Well, it says, the brother says, respecter of, what does it say? Nations. The Most High isn't a respecter of persons, but he is a respecter of nations. Okay, so this is just Israel. It's mentioned here, right? All right. Leviticus 26 and verses 9. 26 and 9. And when you get it, just go ahead and read.
For I will have respect unto you, and make you fruitful, and multiply you, and establish my covenant with you.
With whom? What nations?
He's speaking of Israel.
So he's not speaking about
speaking of
respecting
anybody else.
other nations, right?
No.
Okay, let's get 2 Kings 13 and 23. 2 Kings 13 and 23. So we have these examples to see, that the Most High is dealing specifically with Israelites. 13 and 23.
And Yahuwah was gracious unto them, and had compassion on them, and had respect unto them, because of his covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and would not destroy them, neither cast he them from his presence as yet.
Now, of course, when we read certain things in the New Testament, we have to understand that these men will not contradict the scriptures. They will not. Okay, so if they know and they're held to the scriptures, then there must be something that we are overlooking or misunderstanding. Yes.
That scripture we got in Acts, I think I read that it was saying that God only have respect on persons that judge righteously, righteous judgment. So that is where I think that's where that scripture come in.
Well, so far we can see wherever it's mentioned about respect is only pointed towards Israel because of the covenant that he has made. So I'm not going to spend any more time on that. I'm going to move on into what we can present as proof that Cornelius had to be a Hebrew and not a heathen. And we're going to see why that is, okay? We'll see that information. So let's go back here real quick. You want to read Isaiah 40? Okay, let's Isaiah 40. 40 and 15, you says?
Yes.
40 and 15, okay. How is my little lights doing over there? They doing okay? All right. Shalom, brother Kelvin. I didn't say shalom to you. And 15. Okay, go ahead and read.
Behold, the nations are as a drop of a bucket, and are counted as the small dust of the balance. Behold, he taketh up the isles as a very little thing.
So the nations are to him, as far as they're nothing. Okay, he made a contract with a certain people, and he's been tracing that seed line all the way through.
Yes.
I know that in our world today, everything is spiritualized and such like, to kind of avoid the Most High's word, as if his word is nothing. 17, what does it say?
All nations before him are as nothing, and they are counted to him less than nothing and vanity.
All right. So let's go back to our presentation slides here. And there are other questions that I received in the past, which hopefully today's class will help to clarify some things. Let me see. Okay, so there are various schools of thought when it comes to Cornelius. You have major and minor groups. The major one is that Cornelius is a Gentile, a non-Israelite, and the first non-Hebrew Christian. The evidence that they use is the literal use of the text. Okay, Acts chapter 10, where it speaks about, that thing with Cornelius, and they said, aha, you see, Cornelius is a non-Israelite. Okay, the minor group, which we'll consider ourselves to be minorities, we're always minorities, right? Okay. Cornelius is an Israelite, and the evidence we're going to use are three things: the scripture, which is, of course, prophecy included in there, but the Torah, the prophets, and also history to tie everything together, okay? All right, first and foremost, let's read Acts 10, and then we will, let's go through that real quick. Let's see. Okay, I'm just checking to see my notes here, make sure that I have enough time that we can go through everything. So let's go to Acts chapter 10, and let's read through this. And hopefully we'll gain some understanding. Ready?
Yes.
From the top.
Acts 10 and 1.
Mm-hmm.
There was a certain man in Caesarea called Cornelius, a centurion of the band called the Italian band.
It's not a rock band. It's not a reggae band, not a hip hop group. Okay. It is a military group. Okay. Read on.
A devout man and one that feareth Yahweh with all his house, which gave much alms to the people and prayed to Yahweh always.
Okay. Now, one of the things that was mentioned in the chat room, which I believe is a very important clue, is the giving of alms, okay? Alms is what? Shekalim, it's monies, okay? It's monies, silver coins and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want us to think real slowly. We're going to go through this. You have a guy who is what you would consider an oppressor.
Yes.
Okay, let's look at it in that sense. Let's say he's not a Hebrew. He's just a Gentile. You have the captain or the centurion, which will be of a high rank, of the people who killed your uncle last week, had him up on a cross. Okay, your uncle didn't pay enough taxes. He's hanging from the cross, from a tree. Your brother, you don't know if he's dead or alive. He's running for his life because he wanted to take vengeance for killing his uncle. Come on now. And then this same guy is going to turn around and bring, if not him, somebody else. Okay, maybe he's a good guy. But do you think they're going to pick and choose and say, okay, you're a good one, you're a bad one, whatever it is? All you see is your oppressor. Like a slave is going to say, well, that's a good master plantation over there, and that's the bad master plantation over here. They're all masters, okay? And they all use the whip. Elder, got the mic? They're all masters.
If Cornelius was a heathen or Gentile, where did he get that custom of giving alms? Where he getting that from?
Good question, Elder. Good question. That's how we have to think. Because alms is something that you give, and there is not just the giving, but the receiving of the alms. The receiving. Are you going to take money from somebody that is going to, that has been known to persecute you and to torment your people, and they're oppressing you, they're taxing you? Think about that. It doesn't make any sense, okay? All right, read on. Yes.
Another thing is that as far as the temple goes, you're not supposed to bring the price of a dog.
We'll go into that.
So on.
We'll go into that. Yeah. Yes.
I have a question. The question is, we dealing with alms or giving alms, and we talking about receiving. Remember when the temple was building the temple, they said don't take nothing from nobody else, only from the household or the brethren to build that temple. So in giving, so we had to look at that to see that Cornelius was on that same branch.
Especially from the oppressor. Now, when Solomon was building the temple, you had, what's that guy's name again? Hiram. Keep forgetting him. Hiram was hired to bring some stuff on his ships, to cedar wood and whatever it is that he had to bring to build up the thing. But Solomon was at peace with him. Hiram was not oppressing him. Okay, and I'm sure we had a system in place to check things out. Think about the Romans as a people who eat swine. Think about that. They eat swine, deal with prostitutes. They had, they were disciplined in war, but when they are free to drink and carry on, they can grab whoever they want and do whatever they want to do. They had this kind of a freedom, and they abused their freedoms. The peoples and stuff. And I don't think that too many people would say, okay, let's take this money, bring it before the Most High, and we'll get blessed. I really don't think so, Mishpika. Let's read on.
And verse 3.
Uh-huh.
He saw in a vision, evidently about the 9th hour of the day, an angel of Yah coming into him and saying unto him, Cornelius. And when he looked on him, he was afraid and said, What is it, Lord? And he said unto him, Thy prayers and thy alms are come up for a memorial before Yahuwah.
All right. Do you know of anyone historically, a heathen historically, that the Most High have answered the prayers as a memorial? Has anyone?
No.
Nebuchadnezzar had dreams.
Yes.
Pharaoh had dreams during the time of Joseph. Who else? All of these people had stuff, but was it for doing?
Abimelech too.
Do y'all know of anything like that? Yes, you want to say something?
No. I was going to say in verse 3, how would Cornelius know the time of prayer to pray?
Well, some can say, well, he had the Jewish book 101 on the customs and traditions of the Jews, and they go to the temple 3 times a day, so I'm going to go there too and take off my bulletproof vest and my helmet, put on a robe and go in there. No, Mishpaka, come on now. Okay, come on. All right, verses 5, let's read.
And now send men to Joppa and call for one Simon, whose surname is Peter. He lodgeth with one Simon a tanner, whose house is by the seaside.
Mm-hmm.
He shall tell thee what thou oughtest to do. And when the angel which spake unto Cornelius was departed, he called 2 of his household servants and a devout soldier of them that waited on him continually.
Can you do me a favor and exchange the mics I don't know, for some reason your mic doesn't sound so good.
And when he had declared unto these things, all these things unto them, he sent them to Joppa.
Uh-huh.
And on the morrow, as they went on their journey and drew nigh unto the city, Peter went up upon the housetop to pray about the 6th hour.
Mm-hmm.
And he became very hungry and would have eaten. But while they made ready, he fell into a trance and saw heaven opened and a certain vessel descending unto him, as it had been a great sheet knit at the 4 corners and let down to the earth, wherein were all manner of 4-footed beasts of the earth, and wild beasts, and creeping things, and fowls of the air.
Mm-hmm.
And there came a voice to him, Rise, Peter, kill and eat. But Peter said, Not so, for I have never eaten anything that is common or unclean.
Okay.
And the voice spake unto him again the 2nd time.
Now, at this point in time, we should realize that something doesn't really add up.
Mhm.
Why would this man be so, I guess, strict in his customs, determined not to break his custom,
Mhm.
even in a dream?
Yes.
Now, this is the same Peter that already went through the teachings of the Messiah. He ran away. He was strengthened. Now he's trying to help Israel to build and stuff. And all of a sudden, this thing came on him. Maybe at this particular time, you remember when Yeshua had to rebuke the devil that was speaking through him? Satan want to sift you as wheat. So you can see how even in a dream, Peter was resisting change. You don't see where he says, I'm going to eat anything. Okay, read on. That's the 2nd time now.
Verse 15.
Uh-huh.
And the voice spake again unto him the 2nd time. What Yahuwah have cleansed, that call not thou common. This was done thrice, and the vessel was received up again into heaven.
If you notice that the voice says common, what is the difference between common and unclean? Anyone knows?
A common animal is a clean animal, but it's killed in a, it's like die by itself, or, it's not
Okay.
killed kosher then.
Okay. An animal that is not killed kashrut,
Way.
the
Yes.
kosher way,
Correct.
is considered to be common.
Yes.
Like you have a cow, a
Killed
goat,
for-
a sheep. These are animals that are clean for us to eat. But if it doesn't feel so good that day and lay down and it just keeled over, 4 legs is up in the air, you can't eat that thing. You can't come with the knives and say, hey, let's eat it.
Yeah.
No, it die of itself.
Mhm.
If the dog from the neighbor comes over and bite it and it doesn't feel so good, you can't eat it.
Mhm.
Lion or whatever it is. Okay. So that's common.
Mhm.
Okay. Unclean now is a pig,
Mhm.
correct?
Mhm.
That's unclean. All right. So if you notice that the voice says common,
Yes.
okay, what does that denote?
Hebrews.
It denotes a Hebrew.
A Hebrew.
He's Hebrew, he's clean,
Yes.
but his lifestyle
Is unclean.
has kept him
Yeah.
that he's like basically untouchable. You can't touch him.
Yeah.
Okay. You're not supposed to have any dealings with him.
Yes.
That's why if you have a clean animal that die of itself, what does the Torah say we're supposed to do with that animal?
You give it to the heathen.
Give it to who?
The heathen.
Because you're thinking about those people as heathen. Okay? So in other words, if Cornelius himself would have been denoted as a heathen of another nation. Yes.
The thing is that sometimes, our people are not really properly learn with the Torah how things are, how to go back in the Torah and see what Yah already said in his word. You see what I'm saying to you? So they're not really understanding how to pick out those things when they read the chapter. What is, like, for example, when we talk about the voice said, come on, it didn't say unclean.
Mm-hmm.
No one would say, wait a minute, what does that mean? you have to be able to pick those things out of there, to question, what does that mean? You know,
Well, one of the reasons why that doesn't happen is because when you start to go into that thing, you have to go from the quote unquote Jewish way of looking at things. And a lot of Hebrews don't want to go into that side. It's too Jewish. Anything that is dealing with a lot of the rabbinical writings and stuff, they don't want to look at it from that perspective. Remember, I did a class on the Sotah, which covers the laws of infidelity. Someone is not faithful, how the process is it happens and stuff, and it explains how the woman is taken from one place to the next and all kinds of different things, which is a reflection of the suffering and the trial of the Messiah himself. If you go look at that class, there's a lot of things. It's based upon the rabbinical writings, that they have things that is not found in the Torah itself, directly in the Torah, but these are oral procedures that the judges had in dealing with certain cases. And in those writings, you can see the sign of the Messiah. But if you reject those things, it's difficult for you to really see the detail. So now when you're looking at stuff, it's like, no, you're going to take it just, well, this is what I have. I'm going to only work with this set of tools. But to find the tools to get the fine details, you're going to miss all of that. It's going to be difficult. Okay. Yes.
now in the verse that says what Yahuwah have cleansed, if you had to take it literally and say it's an animal, when did Yah cleanse a pig?
Today in our time,
Do you see what I'm
use
saying
science,
to you?
right?
When did he cleanse shrimp, or when did he cleanse the rat or whatever? You know what I'm saying to you? Because they're thinking that Yah is going to go and clean these people out and make them clean. But that's not what he's saying. I mean,
No.
anything you could ask that question,
Okay.
when did Yah made a pig clean? You see, he said, what Yah have cleansed. If you're talking about a Gentile, Yah never cleanse a pig, if you're going to take it literally.
So as Kiefer made it very clear that as a disclaimer, we're not saying that that the Most High have made any GMO stuff that is clean, kosher pigs. No. This is what the people are trying to do. They're trying to make kosher pigs because they love that stuff so much, you know.
But they do that right now. They are saying that they can make the pig kosher.
Yeah. Well,
Do
I
you know
mean,
that?
that's the European Ashkenazim people that are saying that. Okay, so let's move on. Let's read the rest of that. And let's finish up this chapter, and then we'll go and look at this thing from a prophetical standpoint, because everything that we're seeing in the book of Acts and such like, it didn't just start there. This is a continuation of a long process that the Most High have declared to the house of Israel, both
Correct.
houses of Israel, okay?
Amen.
All right, so let's read.
Verse 17.
Uh-huh.
Now, while Peter doubted in himself what this vision which he had seen should mean, behold, the men which were sent from Cornelius had made inquiry for Simon's house and stood before the gate,
Mm-hmm.
and called and asked whether Simon, which was surnamed Peter, were lodged there. While Peter thought on the vision, the Spirit said unto him, behold, 3 men seek thee.
3.
Yes,
Okay, interesting.
3.
All right. Continue on.
Arise, therefore, and get thee down, and go with them, doubting nothing, for
Mhm.
I have sent them. Then Peter went down to the men which were sent unto him from Cornelius, and said, behold, I am he whom he seek. What is the cause wherefore you are come?
Mm-hmm.
And they said, Cornelius, then the centurion, a just man, and one that feareth Yahuwah, and of good report among all the nation of the Jews, was warned from Yahuwah by an holy angel to send for thee into his house and to hear words of thee.
Mm-hmm.
Then called he them in and lodged them. And on the morrow Peter went away with them, and certain brethren from Joppa accompanied him. And the morrow after they entered into Caesarea, and Cornelius waited for them, and had called together his kinsmen and near friends. And as Peter was coming in, Cornelius met him and fell down at his feet and worshipped him. But Peter took him up, saying, Stand up, I myself also am a man. And as he talked with him, he went in and found many that were come together. And he said unto them, You know how that it is an unlawful thing for a man that is a Jew to keep company or come into one of another nation. But Yahuwah have showed me that I should not call any man common or unclean.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore came I unto you without gainsaying, as soon as I was sent for. I asked therefore, for what intent you have sent for me? And Cornelius said, 4 days ago I was fasting until this hour, and at the 9th hour I prayed in my house, and behold, a man stood before me in bright clothing.
Mm-hmm.
And said Cornelius, Thy prayer is heard, and thy arms are hard in remembrance in the sight of Yahuwah. Send therefore to Joppa, and call hither Simon, whose surname is Peter. He lodgeth in the house of one Simon a tanner by the seaside, who when he cometh shall speak unto thee.
Let me pause for a moment and just to reinforce again the whole idea of a military officer. When you are a military officer, you have to obey strict commands. Is that correct?
Correct.
Now, if they are having a parade to Jupiter and they're doing different things, sacrifices, killing a few swine or whatever it is, do you think that Cornelius can say, okay, I'm not going to do this thing? I can't participate in this thing? You think that's going to be an issue? Obviously, that's going to be a problem, right? So just imagine that Cornelius, you have Israelites are seeing this guy or knowing full well what the people do. It's going to be difficult for them to take anything from this man and bring it into this place, right? Okay. We have to understand how things work, and if we don't apply that, we're going to have problems. We're going to have a lot of problems, okay? All right, let's continue on.
Verse 33, Immediately therefore I sent to thee, and thou hast well done that thou art come.
Mm-hmm.
Now therefore are we all here present before Yahuwah to hear all things that are commanded thee of Yahuwah. Then Peter opened his mouth and said, Of a truth I perceive that Yahuwah is no respect of persons, but in every nation he that feareth him and worketh righteousness is accepted with him.
But in every nation he that feareth him and worketh righteousness is accepted of him. That is what throws a lot of people off.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Let's continue.
The word which Yah sent unto the children of Israel,
Mm-hmm.
preaching peace by Yeshua HaMashiach, he is Lord of all.
He sent the word unto who?
The children of Israel.
Okay.
But that's interesting that he mentioned that, so they should have no reason to say that it was not about the children of Israel, because it tells you that.
Some people wrestle with that, but we'll prove all things. Read on.
Mm-hmm. Verse 37, the word I say ye know, which was published throughout all Judea, and began from Galilee after the baptism which John preached.
What was the other name for Galilee? Galilee was called another name?
Samaria.
Galilee of what?
Of the nations, or Galilee of the Gentiles.
Galilee of the Gentiles. Of the yes. Gentiles. That is correct. So Galilee is still part of Israel, all of Israel. And they call it Galilee of the Gentiles. Mm-hmm. So obviously they were looking at the people from that region to be heathen.
Yes.
Let's continue on.
Mm-hmm. Verse 38. And Yahuwah anointed Yeshua of Nazareth with the Holy Spirit and with power, who went about doing good
mm-hmm.
and healing all that were oppressed of the devil, for Yahuwah was with him.
Mm-hmm.
And we are witnesses of all things which he did, both in the land of the Jews and in Jerusalem, whom they slew and hanged on a tree. Him Yahuwah raised up the third day and shewed him openly, not to all the people, but unto witnesses chosen before of Yah, even to us who did eat and drink with him after he rose from the dead. And he commanded us to preach unto the people and to testify that it is he which was ordained of Yah to be the judge of quick and dead.
He commanded us to preach unto the people. You all remember when he said that? He told them to don't go.
Yes. Do not go into the way of the Gentiles or into the Samaritan, but go to the lost sheep of the house of Israel.
Just the lost sheep of the house of Israel.
Correct.
Now in Samaria you had real heathen, and you
Yes.
also had
The lost sheep of
the lost
Israel.
sheep of the house of Israel.
Correct.
Okay? And then after he resurrected, he told them, go into all the world and preach to every creature,
Right.
baptizing, and so forth and whatnot. Why is that?
That's because that's where they were scattered.
Because they were scattered.
Yes.
They were everywhere. Okay?
Yes.
Let's continue on.
Yes. Again, like in-
Verse 43.
Mhm. To him give all the prophets witness.
The prophets is key.
Mhm.
And this is why when we read the prophets, it explains. We'll go to the prophets shortly, but continue on.
That through his name whosoever believeth in him shall receive remission of sins.
Okay, so here goes the thing. But we'll go back to the prophets, remember, all right? Continue on.
While Peter yet spake these words, the Holy Spirit fell on all them which heard the word. And they of the circumcision which believed were astonished, as many as came with Peter, because that on the Gentiles also was poured out the gift of the Holy Spirit.
Now, the circumcision is just an idiom to those pious Jews with the Pharisee type, circumcised, go to the synagogue, got your phylacteries, you got your talit, you got your stuff. I mean, you're just everything cookie cut, But remember, the book of Maccabees, which we'll look at also, covered Israelites who became as the heathen. They didn't want to circumcise their children, want to eat pork, and all kinds of stuff. I mean, come on. You see an Israelite eating a cockroach. Right. You seen a Jew eating cockroaches and saying, man, this is a delicacy. We can eat it now. It's good. Octopus, squid. Right then and there, you says, you know what? I'm sorry, you're lost. That's it. You're not welcome in my house. Okay? Cut off. All right, let's continue.
Verse 46.
Mm-hmm.
For they heard them speak with tongues and magnify Yahuwah. Then answered Peter, can any man forbid water that these should not be baptized, which have received the Holy Spirit as well as we?
Mm-hmm.
And he commanded them to be baptized in the name of Adonai. Then prayed they him to tarry certain days.
All right. So we have a couple questions. We're going to go to Luke also. So just hold on, brothers and sisters. We'll cover that too. We have Matthew, Luke, and John to do some comparisons. Sister Deborah says, why was Peter told to rise, kill, and eat if any of the beasts had died of themselves? Well, you can have an animal that is clean, that hasn't died. You can kill it if it's suffering, if it's bitten by a lion or something. Okay, if it's infected with a sickness, you can't eat it. If you see an animal is suffering from a disease or something, or whatever it is, it's considered not acceptable to eat for consumption. You can give it, while it's limping, you can take it over to the strangers and give it to them. But you can kill it also. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah, I want to know the question that the sister asked.
Why was Peter told to rise, kill, and eat if any of the beasts had died of themselves?
Well, I believe that God was sending to him a message. It was a message in that sheet that was sent down. It was that message that he was sending to them, about his people.
It was a message.
Yeah.
Absolutely correct. So is this a prophecy? Acts chapter 10, is this a prophecy? So let's go to Ezekiel chapter 4. And we're going to see the same type of stuff in a different form, okay? Or I should say similar. Not the same, but similar. This is a prophecy. Let's go to Ezekiel chapter 4, and we're going to gain some understanding here, Mishpachah. Okay, so you can read the whole chapter. This is a prophecy about the two houses of Israel. As a matter of fact, let me see. You know what? Let's read through it. Let's start at verses 1. Yeah.
Thou also, son of man, take thee a tile and lay it before thee, and portray upon it the city, even Jerusalem.
That's the southern kingdom.
And lay siege against it, and build a fort against it, and cast a mount against it. Set the camp also against it, and set battering rams against it round about.
Cornelius was a regular Joe, or was he a soldier?
Soldier.
So keep in mind that Cornelius is a military guy, but over here we find in Ezekiel there's some military excursion is happening, okay?
All right.
All right, so this is against the house of Judah,
Yes.
the southern kingdom. Now let's read verses 3 now.
Moreover, take thou unto thee an iron pan, and set it for a wall of iron between thee and the city,
Okay.
and set thy face against it, and it shall be besieged, and thou shalt lay siege against it. This shall be a sign to the house of Israel.
Read on.
Lie thou also upon thy left side, and lay the iniquity of the house of Israel upon it. According to the number of the days that thou shalt lie upon it, thou shalt bear their iniquity.
And notice it talked about iron. Keep that in mind. Rome
Yep.
was the Iron Empire.
Correct.
Okay. And now it's talking about Israel, the house of Israel and Judah. So let's continue on.
For I have laid upon thee the years of their iniquity, according to the number of the days, 390 days. So shalt thou bear the iniquity of the house of Israel.
So you got 390 days. Keep that in mind, that number. All right, continue.
And when thou hast accomplished them, lie again on thy right side, and thou shalt bear the iniquity of the house of Judah 40 days. I have appointed thee each day for a year.
What's the total of that? 390 and 40. What's that? What do we have?
For something, 430.
430? How long was Israel mentioned being in captivity for?
430.
430 years.
Yes.
And this is way after Egypt. Keep that in mind, Mishpachah. Remember in the book of Acts, it mentioned 430 years. This stuff keeps reoccurring all the time.
Yeah.
All right, so you have the house of Israel, the northern kingdom first mentioned, and then you have, that's the left side, right?
Yes.
And then on the right side, second after that siege, you have the house of Judah for 40, which is judgment. Okay, now let's continue on.
Verse 7. Therefore thou shalt set thy face toward the siege of Jerusalem, and thine arm shall be uncovered, and thou shalt prophesy against it.
Read.
And behold, I will lay bands upon thee, and thou shalt not turn thee from one side to the other, till thou hast ended the days of thy siege.
Bands, like an Italian band. Okay, read on. Military. Read.
Take thou also unto thee wheat, and barley, and beans, and lentils, and millet, and finches, and put them in one vessel, and make thee bread thereof, according to the number of the days that thou shalt lie upon thy side. 390 days thou shalt eat thereof. So
for the northern kingdom, you notice he mentioned about the 390 days. But the interesting thing is the order of, and of course this is food. So bread is food, something to eat. But if you notice the order of the meal, the recipe, wheat and barley, beans, lentils, and such like. We know we need to have these things we need this wheat and barley to kind of bind the lentils and stuff. But why did it mention what's wrong with this? That's the question. What's wrong with the order? Let's hold on. Let's see if anyone in the chat room can pick up on it. What's wrong with the order? Let's see. Let's try the chat room first. It's out of season. It's the Yehudit. Okay. Out of season. What do you mean by out of season? Okay, Sister Lydia, you want to give it a try? You got the mic? So Yehudit says.
Well, I was just going to say that the barley is first, then the wheat is in the
That's
last
right.
season.
That's correct, sisters in the chat room. You all got it. The barley's supposed to come first. So when we see stuff like this, it's like a red flag. Like, this don't make any sense. You're starting off with the barley, with the wheat first, and then the barley comes second. It's a message. Yes.
But he also did the same thing with the order why he did with the northern and the southern kingdom. The order is off too, because he came to Judah first and then to the northern kingdom.
Oh, you mean in terms of
Yes.
with the Messiah?
Yes.
Yes, okay. But we know that the northern kingdom was first destroyed and then the southern kingdom was destroyed. Okay? So when you look at these things, there's a lot of stuff in there that requires you to spend time, research, study, break it down. It's not something on the surface, okay, that we should look at. And this is what trips up a lot of Hebrews. They're only surface studiers, just skimming the top. You got to dig deep into the stuff, okay? Otherwise, you're not going to get it. And a person like myself may sound kind of crazy because we're presenting stuff that, you know, you're not really interested in. But let's look some more. Let's see what's going on here and compare that with the book of Acts, chapter 10. All right, so verses 10 now.
Verse 10. And thy meat which thou shalt eat shall be by weight, 20 shekels a day. From time to time thou shalt eat it.
Okay, verses 11.
Thou shalt drink also water by measure, the 6th part of an hin, from time to time shalt thou drink. And thou shalt eat it as barley cakes, and thou shalt bake it with dung that cometh out of man in their sight.
A man's excrement, feces, doo-doo. He says, you're going to make these cakes, but he called it barley cakes. That's strange. If you're starting off with wheat, when you're buying stuff in the supermarket, the first ingredient is usually the main ingredient. If it says orange juice and it says 35 color, 36 green, and then in the bottom you're seeing orange, you know orange is the last thing in there. Right? So he says barley cakes, but it's wheat. This is the first ingredient. But then he says to make the stuff with man's doo-doo. Now let's see what the prophet have to say. Verses 13.
And Yahuwah said.
Yeah, this is dry man's doo-doo to make the fire, okay? Like fuel. Okay, read. Yahuwah said.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead and read.
Verse 13.
And
Yahuwah said, even thus shall the children of Israel eat their defiled bread among the Gentiles, whither I will drive them.
That's the northern kingdom, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. They will eat their defiled bread among the Gentiles, whither I will drive them.
Correct.
Verses 14.
Then said I, Yahuwah Elohim, behold, my soul have not been polluted.
I have not eaten anything that is what?
Common or unclean.
Common or unclean. Read.
For from my youth up even till now have I not eaten of that which dieth of itself.
That's common.
Or is torn in pieces.
That's common.
Neither came there abominable flesh into my mouth.
That's unclean.
Correct.
And notice the order. Okay. Notice the order. Verses 15.
Then he said unto me, Lo, I have given thee cow's dung for man's dung, and thou shalt prepare thy bread therewith.
So he comes into Cornelius' house and says, don't call you common. Don't call you common. Because he's an Israelite.
Correct.
This is a prophecy. Read on.
Then he said unto me, Lo, I have given thee cow's dung for man's dung,
Mhm.
and thou shalt prepare thy bread therewith. Moreover, he said unto me, Son of man, behold, I will break the staff of bread in Jerusalem,
Mhm.
and they shall eat bread by weight and with care, and they shall drink water by measure and with astonishment,
Mhm.
that they may want bread and water and be astonished one with another and consume away for their iniquity.
So this is a prophecy, a future situation
Correct.
with Israel being defiled, the northern
Mhm.
kingdom and the southern
Southern
kingdom.
Yes.
But the emphasis was placed upon the northern kingdom
Yes.
as being really in a bad shape.
Correct.
Okay? And so here you have Peter now shows up, and Peter's saying, I'm not going to do this thing.
Yes.
And the prophet is saying, I'm not going to do it either. I've never done it. I'm not going to do it.
Yes.
Can you imagine a prophet looking at the creator and says, I'm not going to do it?
Yes.
You're the boss. You made me, but I ain't doing it.
Yeah.
You can kill me. Just kill me because I ain't put no pig in my mouth.
Because I see something.
Angel in a dream. And you're like, no, I ain't doing it.
Yeah.
Okay, yes.
But the Most High knows very well they're not going to eat it. It's about the prophecy. It's trying to tell you of the future because he knows very well they're not going to do that. You know, they're not going to go and just say, I'm going to eat that stuff. No.
It's the
He's
same.
tried them.
It's the same. Look, Peter right here. He says, kill and eat, all kinds of stuff. He says, not so, Lord, for I have never eaten anything that is common or unclean. You come over here, and it says, verses 14. Now, isn't it interesting? 14 and 14 is the same thing. 14 right here of Ezekiel 4. Acts 10 right over here. Verses 14, same stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Verses 15. Verses 15. Okay. Brothers and sisters, we're looking at prophecy. The wheat is what, prophetically speaking, of whom? Anyone knows?
So we'd have to do with the northern.
The wheat and the barley. Which ones should come first?
The barley should come
The
first.
barley. That should be who?
That should be.
Which, if someone comes up first, they'll be the oldest, right? Oldest in the ground. So that will be the. Okay. So the wheat will be Judah, and the barley would be the northern kingdom family. The northern kingdom, okay? And there are other evidences in the Bible you can go to. Okay, so let's do this real quick. We're going to go back to our slides. We're going to look at, where is it? Time is going so fast, so let me pick up speed. Matthew 8, 5-13. Let's read this real quick, just to show for the record, to present in court, the three different gospels of the good news, good tidings, so we can look at some interesting things here, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Let's read.
And when Yeshua was entered into Capernaum, there came unto him a centurion beseeching him, and saying, Adonai, my servant lieth at home sick of the palsy, grievously tormented. And Yeshua said unto him, I will come and heal him. The centurion answered and said, Adonai, I am not worthy that thou shouldest come under my roof, but speak the word only, and my servant shall be healed. For I am a man under authority, having soldiers under me. And I say to this man, go, and he goeth, and to another, come, and he cometh. And to my servant, do this, and he doeth it. When Yeshua heard it, he marveled and said to them that followed, Verily I say unto you, I have not found so great faith, no, not in Israel. And I say unto you, that many shall come from the east and west, and shall sit down with Abraham and Isaac and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven. But the children of the kingdom shall be cast out into outer darkness. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. And Yeshua said unto the centurion, Go your way, as thou hast believed, so be it done unto thee. And his servant was healed in the self same hour. And when Yeshua,
I think that's all we need from there.
Okay.
Yeah. So we see in Matthew speaks about, I have not found so great faith, no, not in Israel, that many shall come from the east and west and shall sit down with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven. Not the kingdom in heaven, right? Of heaven. But the children of the kingdom shall be cast out. Now, without going into all the details, family, we know that the examples is left with even Moses in the wilderness, that a lot of them didn't make it in because of what? Unbelief. And Hebrews chapter 4, I think it is, speaks about many didn't make it in because of unbelief. And the same thing is going to be repeated again. There are going to be a lot of Hebrews who is not going to make it in because they're, simply not doing what they're supposed to do. Okay? All right? They're not going to make it into the Father's kingdom. Let's put it that way. So let's go to Luke 7. I'm going to read 1 to 10, just 1 to 10. Can you, Ema, can you find for me Zacchaeus? I'm trying to find Zacchaeus. So Luke 7, 1.
Luke 7, 1 to 10. Now when he had ended all his saying in the audience of the people, he entered into Capernaum. And a certain centurion servant who was there unto him was sick and ready to die. And when he heard of Yeshua, he sent unto him the elders of the Jews, beseeching him that he would come and heal his servant. And when they came to Yeshua, they besought him instantly, saying that he was worthy for whom he should do this. For he loveth our nation, and he have built us a synagogue.
So you have this centurion who loved the nations, which sounds pretty much like Cornelius. Sounds a lot like him, right? We don't know if it's Cornelius. It doesn't say, call his name Cornelius, but this is just another example of someone who is putting up some shekels, okay, to help out the synagogue, because I'm sure he didn't take a shovel and a pickaxe, nails and stuff, and go down to help build a synagogue. All right, he's a man of authority. What kind of a message is he going to send to his fellow foot soldiers who have to keep order in Jerusalem with the Jews and stuff? Think about that. Yes.
But when he said they are going to come from the east and the west, he's talking about those that have been scattered, who they never considered to be, because primarily who was following him there at the time was Jews.
Absolutely.
Okay? And when he talked about they come from the east and the west, he's talking about those northern kingdom who were really gone off.
And where are you going to find that information?
Right there.
In the prophets.
Correct.
You got to go to the prophets. Okay. All right. Continue reading. Continue reading. Did you find Zacchaeus? Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
Verse 6.
Yep.
Then Yeshua went with them, and when he was now not far from the house, the centurion sent friends to him, saying unto him, Adonai, trouble not thyself, for I am not worthy that thou shouldest enter under my roof. Wherefore, neither thought I myself worthy to come unto thee, but say in a word, and my servant shall be healed. For I also am a man set under authority, having under me soldiers, and I say unto one, Go, and he goeth, and to another, Come, and he cometh, and to my servant, do this, and he doeth it. And when Yeshua heard these words, he marveled at him, and turned him about, and said unto the people that followed him, I say unto you, I have not found so great faith, no, not in Israel. And they that were sent, returning to the house, found the servant whole that had been sick.
Let's get one more to compare. Let's get John 4, 46 to 54. Yeah, we're going to examine that. Let's continue. John 4, 46 to 54. So you got this whole synagogue thing popping up.
John 4:46
Yeah.
to 54.
You have the alms, you have all this stuff, Mishpachah.
John
Go- uh-huh.
4:46. So Yeshua came again into Cana of Galilee, where he made the water wine. And there was a certain nobleman whose son was sick at Capernaum. And when he heard that Yeshua was come out of Judea into Galilee, he went unto him and besought him that he would come down and heal his son, for he was at the point of death.
It says a nobleman, doesn't say centurion, doesn't say a Roman, okay? Let's read on.
Then said Yeshua unto him, except he see signs and wonders, you will not believe. The nobleman said unto him, Sir.
Now stop a minute. The signs and wonders, who was the ones always looking for signs and wonders? Huh? It's mentioned other places about Israelites, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Keep that in mind. It's there for a reason.
A wicked and adulterous generation seek after a lack after a sign, and there shall no sign be given them.
We were customary. We were so accustomed to signs and stuff that we were always looking for signs. So there are little bits of clues in there. It's not, the light isn't so bright for us to really see it, but it's sufficient for us to know that something is only connecting to Israelites. It's like a dead battery. Still a battery, still has a little something, but okay. From Egypt with the signs all the way through. Let's continue on.
Yeah. They also asked Moses for a sign. What sign we know that God is going to speak to you? You remember that?
Yeah, always asking for signs and wonders. And remember, the prophet says, these children are for signs and wonders where?
In Israel.
In Israel. That's Jeremiah, 16 or something like that?
Yeah.
Okay, let's continue on.
Verse 50.
Uh-huh.
Yeshua said unto him, Go thy way, thy son liveth. And the man believed the word of Yeshua, that Yeshua had spoken unto him, and he went his way. And as he was now going down, his servants met him and told him, saying, Thy son liveth. Then inquired he of them the hour when he began to amend. And they said unto him, Yesterday at the 7th hour the fever left him.
Mm-hmm.
So the father knew that it was at the same hour in the which Yeshua said unto him, Thy son liveth, and himself believed, and his whole house. This is again the second miracle that Yeshua did when he was come out of Judea into Galilee.
Well, can we agree or conclude that the three things that we just read, the three passages, Matthew, Luke, and John, is all related, basically the same?
They're all related. They
So
all were in Capernaum, in Galilee.
So this nobleman is definitely a centurion, but the language that has been used here, the signs and wonders, is as if that this nobleman is an Israelite. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
But not really accepted. Now let's prove a little something here. Well, let's go to Luke. Thanks, Ema, for finding that. Luke 19, and let's read something here. Because what we're going to do is just basically kind of share how Israel had kind of like this segregation type stuff going on. I don't like this group. I don't like these people here, because this is just an example, family. I don't want to deal with these people. Remember, they had no dealings with the Samaritans, but the Samaritans themselves says, our fathers dug this well, and we know that, salvation is of the Jews, I mean the southern kingdom, because the Most High declared, I'll keep a light burning, and that if you want to be accepted, you have to come down to Jerusalem to do the sacrifices. But they stayed in Dan, and they had this witchcraft going on up there and stuff. So they were cut off. So let's see, Luke chapter 19, let's read verses 1.
Luke 19 and 1.
Mm-hmm.
And Yeshua entered and passed through Jericho. And behold, there was a man named Zacchaeus, which was the chief among the publicans, and he was rich.
Mm-hmm.
And he sought to see Yeshua, who he was, and could not for the press, because he was little of stature.
He was a shorty. Read.
And he ran before and climbed up into a sycamore tree to see him, for he was to pass that way.
Read.
And when Yeshua came to the place, he looked up and saw him and said unto him, Zacchaeus, make haste and come down, for today I must abide at thy house.
So Yeshua wanted to go into his house, right? A man from, well, in this case, not another nation will prove that, okay? But he's in Jericho. Read.
And he made haste and came down and received him joyfully. And when they saw it, they all murmured, saying that he was gone to be guest with a man that is a sinner. And Zacchaeus stood and said unto Adonai, Behold, Adonai, the half of my goods I give to the poor. And if I have taken anything from any man by false accusation, I restore him fourfold.
Alms. He gave alms to the poor. He paid back what he took. This is based upon the Torah, Mishpachah.
Yes.
Let's prove that. Read.
And Yeshua said unto him, This day is salvation come to this house, for so much as he also is a son of Abraham.
So we are showing here segregation, bias, partiality, whatever you want to use. Verses 10.
For the Son of Man is come to seek and to save that which was lost.
This is the same language in Ezekiel with the sheep being lost and scattered upon the hills and whatnot. Yeshua came to save Israelites. Verses 11.
And as they heard these things, he added and spake a parable, because he was nigh to Jerusalem, and because they thought that the kingdom of Yahuwah should immediately appear.
So the kingdom of Yahuwah, what is that? Because the disciples asked him, are you at this time going to restore, at this time, the kingdom to Israel? They were looking and expecting that he's going to bring the tribes together and Israel together and stuff. Because after all, you're going all over the place, people that we don't want to deal with. Okay, you are starting to bring them back and you're talking all these stories about bringing them back again. Mishpachah, Cornelius had to be an Israelite. Because Yeshua is not going to say, okay, I was not sent but unto the lordship of the house of Israel. And then all of a sudden now he's going pursuing these people. Don't make any sense. But Cornelius was wise enough. He says, listen, it's going to cause too much trouble. I'm a man of authority. I trust what you're doing. I see you have power. You just speak the word and everything is going to be taken care of.
Question.
Yes.
Remember when he told the woman, it's not me to take the children's bread and cast it to dogs? How come he didn't say the same to the
Cornelius.
other two?
He didn't say to the Cornelius.
Yeah, he didn't. To the centurion, he didn't say that.
And he'll be a big dog. Yes.
Yes, Zacchaeus was taken that from Exodus 22, verses 1, because that was the Torah. That take anything or so forth, you have to
restore it again.
Restore it back.
That's correct.
You do it 4 times much.
Okay, Mishpachah, let's pick up a little speed because I got history to go through and time is going so fast. All right, 2 Kings 20, 17 to 19. Let's read. This is a little bit of background. And yeah, I got some other stuff to touch on, but I'm going to save that for later on. Let's go through some of these things first. 2 Kings 20, 17 to 19, just to give a little background about Israelites taken into captivity. And some of them will be as eunuchs, and some will be officers of the court. You all know Daniel already was one. Yep. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Yep. I mean, we can go down the list. And if you want to prove that Israelites serves as officers or military conscripts, you can read First Ezra with the parable. Zerubbabel, I think, was the one who got it right about women. He was speaking about wisdom at the time, yes. But he says the women, look at this girl is playing with the king's crown and stuff. Yeah. You can read First Ezra, and it talked about First Ezra 3. We'll go to that afterwards. Let's read 2 Kings first, 20. Yes.
Yeah, something just came to my mind.
Uh-huh.
This mic is there. I just we were talking about here now. We found that the Hebrew boys, don't forget, I believe Cornelius, right? The
Mm-hmm.
Hebrew boys' name was changed to Gentile names, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's read real quick, 17 to 19.
Behold, the days come
Uh-huh.
that all that is in thine house, and that which thy fathers have laid up in store unto this day, shall be carried into Babylon. Nothing shall be left, saith Yahuwah.
Mm-hmm.
And of thy sons that shall issue from thee, which thou shalt beget, shall they take away, and they shall be eunuchs in the palace of the king of Babylon. Then said Hezekiah unto Isaiah, Good is the word that Yahuwah which thou hast spoken. And he said, Is it not good if peace and truth be in my days?
Okay, so you have royals being castrated and serving as eunuchs in Babylon. And then this will give us a little clue to understand that the eunuch from Ethiopia, who also serves in the royal palace, and if you read the book of Esther, you'll see Hebrews were in different provinces serving in the different courts, because if you are Nebuchadnezzar and your kingdom is destroyed, and then you got the Medes and Persians taking over, but you are king of kings. You have other countries that have their own kings, but you're king over them. Those kings serve your kingdom. You have eunuchs in your courts. Brothers and sisters, come on now. You're going to have people assigning Hebrews in the courts of other nations also to serve, to give wisdom. Because remember, the Hebrews were wiser than the other nations. All right? Yes.
They also had the eunuch that was taking care of Esther.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Now, I have a question. In Acts 10:28, Peter says, Yah has showed him not to call any man common or unclean. If the unclean is the unkosher, this is how the heathen says they too are grafted in. Can you elaborate? Well, in Israel, we had, on the farm, we had donkeys and we had cows. We didn't eat the donkeys, but the donkeys were used for what?
Beast of burdens.
That's the answer right there. Okay, yes.
Yeah, we have also with Esther, when Mordecai become in the place of Haman,
The authority.
The king tell him to go and destroy all of the others
Mhm.
who want to destroy them, and they said that they decide now to turn over and being converted as Jews.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, you had people who, try to pick up some of the Hebraic practices, but they were not to receive the inheritance. Yes.
Yes, Abraham with his servant
Eleazar.
Eliezer,
Uh-huh.
he's saying he had all these camels. So he had camels on the land and he had cows. But the camels were as to carry things and so forth.
Camels. Uh-huh.
You see?
Correct.
But it ate the cows, but it didn't eat the camels.
They didn't eat the camels. Yeah,
Right.
there's no camel stew.
Right.
No curried camel. Right, Sister Tema? All right, Isaiah 39, 6-8. Let's read real quick. Come on. 39, 6-8.
Okay. Behold, the days come that all that is in thine house, and that which thy fathers have laid up in store until this day, shall be carried to Babylon. Nothing shall be left, saith Yahuwah. And of thy sons, is that the same thing that we're reading?
It's the same thing. I just wanted
Okay.
Israel to see it's repeated.
Okay. And of thy sons that shall issue from thee, which thou shalt beget, shall they take away, and they shall be eunuchs in the palace of the king of Babylon.
Okay. That's all we need from that. When you read Jeremiah 52 from 1 to 26, you're going to see where I mentioned it before, the captain of Nebuchadnezzar's military had taken the majority of Israel into captivity. And verses 16 says, he left certain of the poor of the land for vine dressers and husbandmen and such like. So you can make a note of that, Mishpachah. It all connects, all right? And you have other Israelites serving the Babylonians, all right? Okay, now let's go to Deuteronomy 23 and 18.
Thou shalt not bring the hire of a whore or the price of a dog into the house of Yahuwah your Elohim for any vow.
Mm-hmm.
For even both these are abomination unto Yahuwah your Elohim.
Okay, so hire of a whore, a prostitute goes out, she does something that the Mosiah says not to do. She's making her money off of sex and so forth. And then she says, it's the Feast of Tabernacles. She got all these money that she saved up for the year through prostitution, illegal, labor. And then she brings it up to the house of the Most High, and I want to put my offering into the plate. That's forbidden, Mishpachah. And then you have the price of a dog. It's male prostitute. A man saying, I'm going to be a gigolo. Kevin, you shaking your head? Every night you're out there, toothless ladies are saying, jiggling, huh? Jiggling the lows. All right, so this is an abomination. I want y'all to think about that because the Torah is restricting us from taking illegal types of monies and bringing it into the temple, the sanctuary. So if Cornelius being noted as a heathen, swine, you name it, whatever it is that he's dealing with, however he makes his money, because the Romans, their money is something, how they get the money is through killing, all kinds of different ways, Elder. We can make a list. And then he says, I'm going to help out the Jews, Jewish people, whatever you want to call it, and I'm going to put some monies there. Unless he's helping them through the back door. Hey, Rabbi, come here a minute. Don't tell anybody anything, but here's a little purse. Here's some monies. You think that will be accepted? Eventually, somebody's going to see the rabbi through the back door while he's throwing the trash out, taking some bribes. And that rabbi will be strapped up, right? Yes.
But the Jewish people over in Israel accepting money from everything and everyone.
Well, in Israel, if the people were very strict to Yeshua, why is he going into this person's house? Don't you know what kind of a man he is? Do you know what kind of woman she is? If they were very strict about that, please consider, because even Peter himself says, I'm not going to go into that guy's house. I don't have no dealings with such people, okay? Because of who the background of Cornelius, all right? His trade. All right, family, let's look at a few things here. Let's go to 1 Maccabees 8 and 17.
When Judas betrayed the Messiah
Uh-huh.
and sell him, the money that he received, remember what they did to that?
That's a good one. They tossed it out.
Because the price of blood, and they wouldn't take it.
The price of what?
Blood.
Oh, okay. Good, Elder. Thank you so much. When Judas took the monies that wasn't supposed to be, and then he wanted to bring it, he says, no, we can't take it back into the treasury. It's just not right. Okay. So Cornelius, being a man who has many men underneath him, killing Hebrews, crucifying people, and then you're going to bring this thing in. I don't think you'll be accepted like that. First Maccabees 8, and let's read verses 17, 8 and 17. Just a quick.
8 and 17?
Yes, First Maccabees chapter 8 and 17.
Okay. In consideration of these things, Judas chose Eupolymius, the son of John, the son of Achos, and Jason, the son of Eleazar, and sent them to Rome to make a league of amity and confederacy with them.
Verses 18.
And to entreat them that they would take the yoke from them, for they saw that the kingdom of the Grecians did oppress Israel with servitude.
All right. What we just read is Judas, who was from the tribe of Levi, taking the role of rulers over the southern kingdom. Not Judah. Levi was now carrying the crown of rulership, okay? And they sent messengers to make deals with the Romans. This is how the Romans came into Israel. The Grecians was oppressing Israelites. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. So they went and made deals with Rome, hoping that Rome will have their back and to push the Grecians off of them. Okay? What I'm sharing with you all is that historically speaking, we found ourselves involved in Roman affairs, and some of us was involved in Grecian affairs, and we can see that in First Maccabees. Let me go there real quick, just to make the points. First Maccabees, where it says that the verses 14. First Maccabees 1. We're going to read 11, and then we're going to let's read from 11 to 15. Okay.
Okay.
So let me get it up on the screen, just to make the record, Mishpachah, and then we're going to go into the histories to show proof of Hebrews who were centurions, Jews who were centurions in the Roman army during the same time period and thereafter, okay? Go ahead and read verses 11.
In those days went there out of Israel wicked men who persuaded many, saying, let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us. For since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow. So this device pleased them well. Then certain of the people were so forward therein that they went to the king, who gave them license to do after the ordinances of the heathen.
In Jamaica, we said too enough, right? Too enough, all right? Certain of the people were so forward, in other words, they were too enough forward, that they went to the king, who gave them license to be like the heathen.
Mm-hmm.
Verses 14.
Whereupon they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem, according to the custom of the heathen.
We call it gymnastics, the gym, Olympics. Read.
And made themselves uncircumcised, and forsook the holy covenant.
And did what?
And joined themselves to the heathen, and was sold to do mischief.
That's all we need from that. So they stopped from circumcising their children. They went through some surgeries probably and do a little something. Who knows? In other words, they became the Gentiles. So when you come to the New Testament, you see in the circumcision don't have nothing to do with the uncircumcision. But then you find Greeks in a synagogue saying to Paul and them, I want to link up with you all next Shabbat. Come on now. Who is the audience? If Yeshua says the children first have to be filled, what do you think those men are going to do? They're going to go to Israel, to the diaspora.
That was the command.
That was a command. Because they're dispersing to all the nations, going to all the world and teach. Okay, my sheep hear my voice. So I'm speaking to my people. The Ruach is going to link up with those people. They're going to say, you know what? I'm an Israelite. I'm going to put down the swine, the scrimps and all that stuff, and I'm going to serve the Most High. No more chitlins. Okay, let's go to Mark 15 and verses 7. The book of Mark 15 and verses 7. I'm looking for my other thing. Okay, here it is. Mark 15 and verses 7. Well, because it's hard, because if you miss the first principle, if the Most High said through the prophets, I'm going to scatter the people, look for that scattering. If he says, I'm going to send my men to go and look for the scattered, look for that too. He's not going to send the Messiah or send anyone after that and do something totally different. If he says, I'm going to gather these people first, and then in my kingdom, I'm going to deal with the other nations. That's what he said, in my kingdom. When Solomon had declared this is going to be a place for all people, Israel was still one nation.
Yes.
And they had a place to come first. And there was a court for the Gentiles that was separate from the rest of Israel. And they came to that court of the Gentiles. This is when Shaul had brought someone who was suspected to be a Gentile to the temple. There was an uproar.
Yes.
Because there was a sign placed by the Corinthian gate. That's the gate, it's called Corinthian in the place, okay? You're going to die if you cross this area here. If you're a Gentile and you cross this area, it's death. The temple guard will kill you. So there was an uproar. How dare you bring in this uncircumcised guy over here?
Yes.
It was a problem. Okay? Yes.
Yes.
All right. Elder, you want to say something quick?
The church tell you that when Christ died, everything changed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he changed everything, so everybody's accepted. Come
Well,
as you are.
that's not according to the scriptures. Now we're going to look at some freedom fighters. Yes, let me get your point.
No, what I was saying is that when you listen to what even though you didn't read the scriptures, let's just say you're just a New Testament person, okay? And you read the scriptures and you have to listen to what Yeshua is telling you, what the instructions he gave them. Do not go to the Gentiles, only to the lost sheep of Israel.
Mm-hmm.
And then he said, I did not come but for the lost sheep of the house of Israel. And then he said again, let the children first be filled.
I mean,
that is just,
you don't have to read too much after that.
After that, I mean, come on.
I mean, I don't care what pops up after that. If it doesn't fit into that thing, like the guy said, if the glove don't fit, you must do what? It don't fit. Stretch the glove all over. Still trying to catch OJ. Go ahead.
But then he also said that he's going to send for fishers and hunters, and he's going to get you no matter where you hide in. So if he's going through the length to find you where you're hiding, understand that they're everywhere.
Sarah, the people believe in Moby Dick, this guy chasing a white whale for the longest time. But they don't believe the scriptures about the Most High is going to chase his own people for the longest time. Let's go to Mark 15, and let's see what happened in the New Testament is nothing new. Okay?
Right?
Mark 15 and verses 7.
Mark 15 and 7.
Uh-huh.
And there was one named Barabbas, which lay bound with him that had made insurrection with him, who had committed murder in the insurrection.
So Barabbas was a freedom fighter. I know they want to have him as a murderer in the sense of a thief or whatever, one of those people. But Barabbas was a freedom fighter. He wanted to kill the Romans. They don't love the Romans like that. I'm just kind of showing you how Cornelius would have had to stay from the back, from the far away, do his job as a soldier, and try to keep a low profile in things. Okay? So let's look at Acts 5 and 35 now. Everybody's good so far? All right. Acts 5 and 35. Go ahead and read.
Acts 5 and 35. And said unto them, Ye men of Israel, take heed to yourselves what you intend to do as touching these men. For before these days rose up Thaddeus, boasting himself to be somebody, to whom a number of men, about 400, joined themselves, who was slain. And all, as many as obeyed him, was scattered and brought to naught.
37.
After this man rose up Judas of Galilee in the days of the taxing, and drew away much people after him. He also perished, and all, even as many as obeyed him, were dispersed.
So these are all freedom fighters. And he says, don't follow these people. They want to do something that is different. They're going to pay the price for it. But I'm showing you examples of men who hated the Romans and other foreigners coming in and trying to take over and stuff. And we can go to First Maccabees verses First Maccabees chapter 2, and let us read verses 39 to verses 40 to 48. Okay, First Maccabees, yes. First Maccabees chapter 2. We're going to read verses 39. Now, this is important. Please make a note of it. For those who don't know, this will help you to understand the New Testament, the book of Acts, and also the Gospels. So verses 39, let's read from there.
2:39. Now when Matthias and his friends understood hereof, they mourned for them right sure.
Matthias is the father for Judas Maccabee. Okay, he was a priest that fought against the heathen. Read.
And one of them said to another, if we all do as our brethren have done, and fight not for our lives and laws against the heathen, they will now quickly root us out of the earth.
Read.
At that time, therefore, they decreed, saying, whosoever shall come to make battle with us on the Shabbat day, we will fight against him. Neither will we die all, as our brethren that were murdered in the secret places.
Now, this is the part that you really need to make a note. Verses 42.
Then came there unto him a company of Assyrians, who were mighty men of Israel, even all such as were voluntarily devoted unto the law.
That word Hasidians is Hasidic, pious. You ever heard of Hased or Pharisees? So make a little note, Pharisee, right? Pharisee, men who are devout. This is why the Pharisees were all over the place checking to see who was doing what correctly or not. Okay? The only reasons why the Pharisees didn't kill people directly, because Rome didn't allow it. But once the Levites were in charge, they had free range. You break the law, you're going to die. Let's read verses 43 now.
Also, all they that fled for persecution joined themselves unto them, and were a stay unto them.
Read.
So they joined their forces and smote sinful men in their anger and wicked men in their wrath. But the rest fled to the heathen for succor.
For security. So the Pharisees, this is where the Pharisees first started, Mishpachah. And they continue as a power all the way through. So they joined league with the Levites, and they said, we're going to kill these people who don't keep the law. And that's exactly what they did. Like Bob said, chase those crazy bald heads out of town. All right, let's continue on.
Then Matthias and his friends went round about and pulled down the altars. And what children whatsoever they found wherein the coast of Israel uncircumcised, those they circumcised valiantly. They pursued also after the proud men, and the work prospered in their hands.
That's the other Hebrews who were proud and doing wicked things. Read.
So they recovered the law out of the hand of the Gentiles, and out of the hand of kings. Neither suffered they the sinner to triumph.
The sinner, that means the Hebrews who sinned. All right, so let's go now to Acts 22 and 28. I want to share with you all how this little conversation between Shaul and an officer of Rome should be looked at very carefully. Acts 22, and we'll skip on down to verses 28, somewhere around there. Okay. Let's start at verses 26.
When the centurion heard that, he went and told the chief captain, saying, take heed what thou doest, for this man is a Roman. Then the chief captain came and said unto him, tell me, art thou a Roman? He said, yea. And the chief captain answered, with a great sum obtain I this freedom. And Paul said, but I was freeborn. Then straightway they departed from him, which should have examined him. And the chief captain also was afraid after he knew that he was a Roman, and because he had bound him.
All right. So it is possible for Hebrews to either be born into a country and be Roman citizens, bound by the laws of Rome, have dual citizenship. You're a Hebrew living in Rome, you're a Roman citizen. But you're not a Gentile. Now, if Paul didn't keep the traditions of the fathers, the law and stuff like that, he would be called a Gentile. Okay? Okay, so we already know about the word for price, gift, hire, reward. It's something that's an abomination to the Most High. We're not supposed to take things that were used to do evil and bring that into the temple. You got Strong's H868 and Strong's H4242, which is wages or reward for labor. Anything that is sold or purchased, things for transaction that is illegal, you can't take the proceeds from that and say, I'm going to bring it into the temple, because that's almost like laundering stuff. You're hoping to get clean by, you're a mafia guy and you come to the Pope and give the Pope some money, and the Pope says, okay, you're going to be called Godfather and bless you, bless your children and stuff like that. Oh yeah, to the Pope. Yeah, you're right, Elder. All right, family. So let's look at some things historically now. We got pictures of Hebrews in the catacombs in Rome, Italy. now, these are catacombs, are these caves under the ground where the dead was buried. These are Hebrews. If you see the picture, you can see this guy over here. Look at the complexion of these people. All right, that's supposed to be Jesus and the disciples. All right. Here is an article just to give a little background about the possibilities, because we're building so we can see that Romans or Hebrews served in Roman armies and stuff. Okay, the black presence in Britain. So according to this report here, Archaeology of Black Britain. I'm just going to read a few things here. Most celebrated example of black Romans in Britain is the case of Roman military garrison at the fort of Burgh by Sands on Hadrian's Wall in Cumbria. A 4th century inscription tells us that the Roman auxiliary unit Numerus Aurelianum Norium was stationed at Abavala, modern-day Burgh by Sands. This unit had been mustered in by the Roman province in Mauritania in North Africa, modern Morocco. So there's some history here showing that this garrison, of course, came from northern part of Africa. I'm just going to read the highlights here. Let me see. Make it a little too big. Okay, so we got it squeezed in. It is often forgotten that Rome's African provinces were some of its most important, and it has been suggested that there may have been a black Roman emperor, Septimus Severus. There are in fact several inscriptions found in Britain that mentions the emperor Septimus Severus. It is generally accepted that Septimus was born in Numidia, also in North Africa, and there is the possibility that the unit Numerus, you know the name of that, was brought to Britain around AD 193 to 211. What century is that? That's around, this is after the death of Christ, somewhere a little bit after the 1st century, right? Okay. It was recently suggested that African DNA might be found to be present in the local populations near to Hadrian's Wall, for instance, in Burgh by Sands, okay? So let's go back to Cornelius here. So this is giving us some evidence, some evidence that there were Hebrews. There were Hebrews, family, or people of color, let's put it that way, over in that neck of the woods in England area, Great Britain. Now, this is an article of importance. I'm going to pull it up. African origins of Roman York's rich lady with the ivory bangle. And we're going to start to make these connections here, where you're going to see that when they found these people and they start to dig into it, you're going to see the connection. They say North Africa, but then you're going to see how it ties back into Israel, okay? The Guardian newspapers, African origin of York, Roman York's rich lady with the ivory bangle. Okay, so in the report, it says the woman was of black African ancestry, according to the her skeleton when it did the autopsy, I guess. Okay. The Roman population may have had more diverse origins than the city has now. They're acknowledging all of that stuff too. The authors point out that Roman North Africa was noted for its mixed populations with Phoenician, Berber, and Mediterranean, what does it say? Influence. Keep that in mind. That's that whole Israelite sections where the diaspora of Israelites dwelt. Okay? All right. So the color, she's dark skinned. Where she came from was that region. When they found a piece of her carving of jewelry, it says on it, the inscription says, "Hail, sister, may you live in God," suggesting she may have been a Christian. Well, remember, the label of Christians was applied to Hebrews who were dispersed in different places. Remember that, right? Okay. All right. It says, the authors comment, the case of the ivory bangle lady contradicts assumptions that may derive from more recent historical experience, namely that immigrants are low status and male, and that African individuals are likely to have been slaves. Instead, it is clear that both women and children moved across the empire often associated with what? The military. Do you all see that? Okay, the military. So we're building a case to show that more than likely our people were in the military. Okay, let me see what else we want. Let me close this out. All right, let's go back to our next piece. Sextus Julius Africanus. This is from Wikipedia. So you have this guy by the name of Sextus Julius Africanus, which also connects to the same lady, bangle lady, which we're going to look at shortly. They said he was a Christian traveler and historian of the late 2nd and early 3rd centuries. He is important chiefly because of his influence on Eusebius. All right, now let me scroll down just a little bit. Julius called himself a native of where? They call him Africanus. Okay, but he's a native to where? Jerusalem, which some scholars consider to be his what? Birthplace, Mishpachah, and lived at the neighboring Emmaus. Remember the road to Emmaus where Yeshua walked? The man had to be a Hebrew. Okay. His chronicle indicates his familiarity with the topography of historic Judea. So he was very acquainted with Israel. Let me see what else you want. Okay, so it says he knew Greek, in which language he wrote, Latin, and what's the next one? Hebrew. You all see that? Then they also assert that Julius must have been a priest himself. Okay, so all of these little pieces here is giving us information about the background. It says Africanus wrote this book about 5 volumes about the creation, about Yeshua, about all these different things. All right, and y'all can pull it up too and check it out. and get some more information on that. It says, reconciling the apparent discrepancy between Matthew and Luke in the genealogy of Christ by a reference to the Jewish law of levirate marriage, which compelled a man to marry the widow of a deceased brother if the latter died without issue. His terse and pertinent letter to Origen impugning the authority of the part of the book of Daniel that tells the story of Susanna, and Origen's wordy and uncritical answer are both extant. So this man was learning a lot of Hebraic stuff. Basically, that's what I want you all to see from that. Okay. All right, so let's move on. Let's close this out. Let me see. I think that's about it. He wrote some stuff about Daniel chapter 8, the 70 week and all that stuff, the lunar years and all that good stuff. Okay, so let's close this out. So over here, this is a website y'all can go to. The link is on the bottom here. And this is something set up in England where people can go to and learn the history, the early history of many so-called black people that lived in during the time of the Roman Empire in England. And so they call this lady Julia Tertia III. My name is Julia Tertia, but they call me Tertia. I don't know if it's Tertia or Tertia. One of my illustrious ancestors on my mother's side was Sextus Julius Africanus. So they're digging up all this information, this history about this lady here, connecting her back to the same guy we just read about that was born in Jerusalem, spoke Hebrew, was writing things according to the scriptures, and keeping these records about Hebraic stuff, even about the Messiah himself. What does that tell you, Mishpachah? You're all Israelites. Okay? You're all Hebrews. Let me see what else we want. Okay, so let's move on now. Now, I gave you the pamphlet. I'm going to read from that. This is a very important thing we're going to look at. This is from the Purdue University Press. Let me pull it up. It's called The Sons of Israel, and we're going to spend a little time in this. And what this is going to show us, Mishpachah, this is going to share with us, because there's a lot of people who says Cornelius is not Hebrew, but this information is powerful because this university, Purdue University Press, is bringing information out about, it says, sons of Israel in Caesar's service, Jewish soldiers in Roman military. All right, now let's take a look. Let's read right here, sons of Israel in Caesar's service. And let me try to make it bigger.
The participation of Roman Jewish soldiers in the armies of Imperial Rome often goes unrecognized. This is mainly a result of a lack of recognition on the part of scholars who wish to use rabbinic sources as a benchmark for Jewish practice in the imperial age. It is also difficult to identify Jewish soldiers, many of whom had Greek and Latin names.
Many of them had Greek and Latin names. Okay, this is important. Read on.
Unless they are specifically identified as Jews or are found in a Jewish context, such as dedicatory inscriptions from a synagogue.
What this means, dedicatory inscription, is, you know, like if we just read Cornelius, not Cornelius, Cornelius and the centurion, where they always give alms and they build a synagogue. It is customary. Whenever someone contributes money to a synagogue to build, guess what? A plaque is put up in their honor. Exactly, on the wall. Y'all understand this? So it was customary for this thing to happen. Go ahead and read.
Nonetheless, by using a variety of sources from the period, it is possible to appreciate the depth and breadth of Jewish service in the Roman legions from the time of Caesar down to the early 5th century. There are Jews who served as simple foot soldiers, influential generals like Tiberius Julius Alexander, and Jewish military units such as the Regi Emenesi Idue.
Reggie. Sounds like we're still using Reggie today, right? Go ahead.
Regardless of their relationship to Orthodox Jewish communities of the time, the service of Roman Jews in the imperial armed forces must be recognized.
Okay, so let's skip on down. We're going to go to some of the highlighted stuff where it says Vespasian. You see it's underlined?
Yep.
Okay, so let's read some of these things here. I'm just going to read go through some of these things real quick to identify the history, okay? All right, my mind is running faster than my mouth, so go ahead and read.
But Vespasian made the unlikely choice of an Alexandrian Jew named Tiberius Julius Alexander to spearhead the Roman army in its effort to thwart the Jewish uprising.
So Vespasian, if you know anything about the destruction of the temple in 70 AD, Vespasian was the one behind that. So instead of choosing other people to lead the thing, he chose a Hebrew, Alexandrian Jew. Alexandria is in Egypt, okay, to spearhead the fight against the uprising. Go ahead and read.
The emperor's decision was to prove fortuitous, as not only did Tiberius Alexander coordinate a Roman victory in Judea, but he also became Titus's trusted advisor and may have eventually reached the rank of Praetorian Prefect. So this is a high-ranking military position. This Jew was so good that he rose up into the ranks. Y'all see that? Okay. All right. Let's go on down. We got more. Let's read the next. And Roman Jews in imperial service are often cast in the light of renegades or apostates.
A lot of times people look at renegade Jews in the Roman service as guys who didn't care too much for their people, and it wasn't the case. Just like Cornelius, just like the centurion that is mentioned. We don't know if that's Cornelius or not, but the evidence point towards that. You see, that was either Cornelius or another person who was Hebrew trying to help their own people out from a distance. Okay? Let's go to our next underlined stuff.
And Tiberius Julius Alexander is often recast as an apostate even when it is acknowledged that there is no evidence of this fact. Okay, the next one is the dearth of inscriptions and manuscripts specifically addressing Jews in the Roman military, the inability to recognize Jews with Greek or Latin names unless they are identified as such, and the tendency of many scholars to rely on rabbinic works in order to reconstitute normal Jewish practices in the Roman world.
So people ignore other information and they're just basing it on the rabbis, because understand something, the rabbis is not going to write anything good about Jews who serve in Roman places, because basically you are what? An outcast. How dare you consider yourself a Hebrew and serve Rome? Okay. Yes, Elder.
Remember Moses. When Moses was brought up, when the time come, he refused, right? He refused to serve in Egyptian. He decides to follow where he was
his family.
Ancestors.
His family. All right, let's read this this part here.
Claiming that Jewish practice in the imperial period encompassed a broad range of religious activity, from the orthodoxy of the rabbinic academies to the syncretism of Jews who had Latin names and employed pagan motifs in synagogal decoration.
So some of the Hebrews also bring their stuff into the synagogues. That's why when they excavate some of the ruins up in Galilee area, the synagogues, You've seen all these calendars with pagan symbols, you know, Pisces and all kinds of stuff in there because of the influence of the Greek and the Romans, all right? Hebrews who were doing these things. Go ahead.
With these facts in mind,
Uh-huh.
the prospect of active Jewish participation in the military becomes tangible.
All right, let's move on to our next part here.
By the time of Caesar, Jews could already reflect on an illustrious 300-year history of armed service in Persia and the Hellenic East.
So in Persia we served, and also with the Greeks we served. We already read that, okay, in the Maccabees. Go ahead.
Not to mention the military exploits of the Hasmonean dynasty in the Jewish state proper.
That's the Maccabees, okay, read.
Throughout the Ptolemaic period, Jews served in every capacity in the Egyptian army. There were military colonies at Elephantine, border guards at Pelusium, and reservists in the Epigony. Queen Cleopatra III's top military commanders were both Jews. Chelcias and Ananias, the sons of the legendary high priest Onias of Heliopolis.
Okay, let's go. Let's go. Right over here, the next one.
To this effect, 500 Jewish horsemen from Mesopotamia were settled at Battania under the leadership of a captain named Zamaris.
Okay.
In the year 19, Emperor Tiberius forcibly conscripted 4,000 Roman Jews for military service on the island of Sardinia.
Read.
But there is also evidence of Jews serving in a voluntary capacity. Mattathias, a Syrian Jew, served in the Legio I Areotrix under Nero and received Roman citizenship in 68. Prior to the implementation of the Constitutio Antoniniana.
That's why you're going to read it and not me.
In 211, military service was one of the few ways that Jews could achieve Roman citizenship.
So military service, if you want to become a citizen, that was one way to come in, to get the benefits. Same thing today, right, Kifa? Let's go to our next reading. We're going to see the centurion. Don't worry, it's coming up.
Tiberius Julius Alexander, the Egyptian Jew who was destined to become one of the most powerful personas in the empire, was born in the year 16 in Alexandria. Tiberius's uncle was none other than the famous philosopher Philo.
Who?
Philo.
Philo. And Philo was around with Josephus. And Philo and Josephus were around when Peter and them was doing their business. So it's around the same period. We had people who were involved in the Roman Empire, in the military, during that same time. They were all contemporaries, Mishpachah. Yes, Philo was from the tribe of Levi. Okay. Go ahead and read.
Tiberius's family had received Roman citizenship during the reign of Augustus and expected their children to assume important posts in the imperial administration.
See that? So if your people, your children are serving in the Roman government, how do you think the other Hebrews is going to feel about you? They're not going to like you so much. Okay, read on. Their father
eschewed a standard Jewish education and instead had his children tutored in the classics.
Once the boys
reached manhood, Alexander Lysimachus, arranged for his sons to enter disparate fields in Roman imperial service. Marcus would become influential in the family's native city of Alexandria and eventually married Princess Bernice, the daughter of King Agrippa I.
Where do you find that?
In Acts.
Where?
In the book of
The
Acts.
Book of Acts.
Yes.
Book of Acts. So we're reading history showing how everything is tied in, Mishpachah. Y'all see that?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Go ahead and read.
Meanwhile, Tiberius began his illustrious career in the Roman army, where his leadership skills and family connections allowed him to secure the post of governor of the Thebaid in 42.
Mm-hmm.
Tiberius's success in this position prompted Emperor Claudius to appoint him procurator of Judea 4 years later.
All right, and they looked at him as a turncoat. You see, you have it in yellow. A turncoat. That's a Benedict Arnold or Uncle Tom. All right, Uncle Tom. Let's read the next Tiberius Alexander.
Okay. Many of his core legionists.
Where are you? Just skip on down. Tiberius right over here.
Oh, okay. Tiberius Alexander left his station in Judea in 48, and by 63, he had risen to become one of the highest-ranking officers in the Eastern Army, a member of Corbulo's general staff.
All right, let's skip on down. We're just picking a few things here, Mr. Picard. There's a lot of stuff, and we don't want the brethren to fall off the deck, okay? I don't have the miracles in me as yet, Mishpachah, to raise anybody from the dead. But pray for your little brother, perhaps. Tiberius Alexander, go ahead.
Tiberius Alexander seemed to maintain some of his religious sensibilities during the last days of the war.
Do y'all see that? You have a guy who was serving very well to put down his own people in the Roman military, but later on he woke up. Sensibility, that means coming to your senses. Is that correct? Help me out. I'm not that smart. Sensibility during the last days of the war. Does that make sense? Sensibility? He's come to his senses. Read on. Josephus.
Josephus states that in the final moments of the siege of Jerusalem, both Tiberius and Titus desperately tried to avert the burning of the temple.
Read.
Tiberius Alexander returned to Rome with Titus and, according to an Egyptian papyrus, was eventually appointed to the post of Praetorian prefect.
That's a high rank, Mishpachah. All right, let's read over here.
With the death of his friend and patron, Emperor Titus, Tiberius Alexander made an abrupt exit from the annals of history.
He just disappeared.
In the end, the fate of this illustrious Jew from Alexandria remains unknown.
Okay, let's skip on down. This is the stuff that the church don't want you to know. I'm telling you, you really got to do a lot of research to make the connection. Let's read this part.
To the consternation of many rabbis of the period, Jewish men formed a cadre or cadre in the imperial army from the time of Emperor Caracalla down to the reign of the late Christian emperors. There were even exclusively Jewish units, such as the Royal Emessene Jews.
Many diasporan Jews?
Many diasporan Jews were fully enmeshed in Roman culture, used Greek or Latin names.
See that?
And were active in the civic administrations of numerous cities around the Mediterranean.
This is why when you read the book of Acts and so forth, oh, Theophilus, I'm giving you an account of what happened. And we're saying, Theophilus, that don't sound like a Hebrew name. That must be a heathen. See, Jesus came to the heathen too. No, brothers and sisters. Yes.
They don't understand also that when we went into captivity, they always change your name. In the case of Daniel and the Hebrew boys, they gave them Persian names.
Elder had mentioned that earlier. Let me skip on down. Adam, just give me 1 second. Skip on down to this part because this is where I want to get to the meat of it. The highlighted part.
Roman Jewish soldiers who are mentioned in inscriptions and artifacts from the 1st and 2nd centuries are almost entirely of Egyptian or Syrian extraction. An inscription from Jaffa mentions an Egyptian Jew named Thanoam the centurion.
The who?
The centurion.
Ah. You see, so it mentions that Jews were centurions. But you're right, Kifa. We have our own people in the military.
Yep.
We have our people in the police department. 1,000 years from, well, God forbid, 500 years from now, people are going to be thinking, 2 days from now, people are going to be thinking that we were just a bunch of nobodies. No, yes, Kifa.
Yeah, I was able to do both, even though walking in the truth, was able to join the police department and also the military. So it's not a surprising thing. It's just some people don't understand it, but it's something that you can do, and it's something that's done.
So they will call you a turncoat, Kifa, especially with the stuff happening with Hebrews being shot down by police. They see you in a uniform, they might try to chase you down too, Kifa. Thank the Most High that he took you off from that.
Well, not all police officers or military are the same. It's not a blanket of all activities and behaviors, but it depends on the person and how they carry themselves.
Absolutely. Let me see if I want to take any more from this. I don't think we need to read much more from this. I think we got the point where we can see our people served in the military. We have centurions mentioned. You name it. All the Latin that I can't pronounce is in there. All the information is there. Let me see what else. You got bishops mentioned here. Let me see. Catacombs mentioned. The Jara tribe. Let me see if we can get that there. That's on page number 123. I want to pull this up real quick. Read this part because we're going to segue into some stuff here. Just a little bit. Go ahead and read.
The famous Rabbi Simeon ben Lachish was a foot soldier in the Limitani before he retired to more scholarly pursuits.
So you have a rabbi who was a foot soldier, a grunt, right? Go ahead.
In North Africa, an extensive portion of Roman frontier troops was recruited from the native Berber population, among them the Jewish Jurwa tribe.
Check it out, Mishpaka. You do the research and you see the Hebrews that lived in that part of Africa was recruited to serve in the military, Mishpaka. You want to see the name again? Let me pull it up here.
Would that be a tribe from Judah?
They are actually a mix of Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. But from what I understand, there was one particular woman who were from that tribe. She was called the Queen of the Berbers. And she fought against the Muslims to keep the Muslims out from that part of Africa because we had a lot of Hebrews who lived there. She ended up dying later on, and then after that, Muhammad and them was able to get in and do some damage in that area. Okay.
She also said that she fought really well to save a lot of her people. I read
fought,
about her. Yeah,
she fought very well. That doesn't mean our sisters should go out there and be fighting nobody.
She was
okay, but she didn't have much of a choice. She was they said she was actually her name was what's her name again? Kahina, whatever her name is. But the thing about her name, it's a bastardized word for Cohen, priests from the tribe of Levi. Okay. This book called From Hebrew to Hebrews and Other Essays by Robert Wolf, you can get on Amazon, I believe. Got some things in here that spoke about Israelites being in Libya, in the military, and all these different places, which is called Cyrenaica at the time. Okay. And it also spoke about the same Berber tribes all right, that were Hebrew. Right here, read this part. These tribes.
These tribes remained Jewish right up to the time of the Arab conquest of North Africa in the 7th century CE.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, the resistance to the Arab conquest in the Maghreb was led by the Jewish Berber tribes, and in particular by the Jarawa tribe,
Uh-huh.
which was headed by...
Scroll up just a little bit. Okay.
by Daya al-Kahena,
Mm-hmm.
a Jewish priestess. Kahena means priestess.
Yeah, oh, Cohen. Okay. All right. That's all we need from that. That's all we need from that. So we're almost done, Mishpaka. Again, history showing in Josephus and other places about Israelites who serve in military garrisons and whatnot, in Persia and such like. And during the time of the Greeks, we served also. Do you all think that I've made my case? Do you think the case is closed now, Mishpaka? Any of you all in the chat room believe that the case is closed? Hmm? Who reopened the case? The case is closed. Okay, brother. Yeah, says it's closed. I don't know, because is it a hung jury?
All the evidence you give is more than enough.
Let's get Genesis chapter 48 and 19, if you can read that for me, please. This is about Ephraim.
Genesis 48 and 19.
Yeah, we're almost done. We're going to wrap it up here. Genesis 48. There's so much more we can bring on the table, but a lot of this stuff is covered in other classes. And I'm sorry for those Hebrews who can't take 3 hours in a class, but 3 hours watching a movie is okay, or watching a game is all right. I feel sorry for you. Maybe you should attend a 15-minute game. Pay $30 for a 15-minute game. How's that? 48 and verses 19.
And his father refused and said, I know it, my son, I know it.
Read verses 17.
Okay. And when Joseph saw that his father laid his right hand upon the head of Ephraim, it displeased him, and he held up his father's hand to remove it from Ephraim's head onto Manasseh's head.
So Ephraim is the center of what we're looking at. So verses 19.
And Joseph said unto his father, Not so, my father, for this is the firstborn. Put thine hand upon his head. And his father refused and said, I know it, my son, I know it.
So he's prophesying.
Yes.
He's prophesying. Let's see what's...
He also shall become a people, and he also shall be great.
Manasseh will be great, but
truly his younger brother shall be greater than he, and his seed shall become a multitude of nations.
Nations. Y'all see that? Please make a note of that. Nations, plural. How is Ephraim becoming a multitude of nations? It's very simple.
Because of the double blessings of Joseph.
If you go out into the world and you mix yourself among the nations, you come back, you're going to see, like Joseph's coat, many colors. Yeah. All red and yellow, black and white. They are precious. You're going to see all the colors. But what is it talking about? Israelites. Just all over the place. Abraham is going to say, are these my children?
Okay. But the thing is that even though you have them of different shades, some speak Spanish, some speak French, some speak German, some speak Portuguese, some speak English, some speak Chinese. I mean, all languages of the world.
So with that said, we're going to stop here. Let's all face towards Jerusalem and ask the Most High to bless each and every one of us.
Heavenly Father, we want to thank you once again to be in your presence, to offer thanks and praise to thee. We thank you for the word of encouragement. We ask you, Lord, to help each heart to continue to trust thee and to live a life that is worthy in thy presence. Bless the food, bless the offering, bless those who don't have. provide for those who don't have, and help them likewise to be in your presence, to give you praise and thanks. Again, we ask for your blessing to continue in our hearts, because we do ask it in your wonderful name, I pray. Amen. Let
The words of our mouth, meditation of our hearts,
set in
and acceptable in your sight, O Yahweh strength.